following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
The NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series playoffs continue tonight from the hallowed grounds of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. 7 drivers' fates still remain undetermined, voting for 3 spots on the Homestead Finale grid. And all of that thanks to 2014 Series champion Michael Conti, who, courtesy of his win last week at Darlington, has already locked himself in to the championship 4 rounds. So as we get set to go racing from the Brickyard tonight, we recap that win from 2 weeks ago at the track Too Tough to Tame in this week's iRacing Race Recap. The pace car makes the sharp left-hand turn, dive down to the safety of the pit lane. The field is in the hands of Ryan Luza. His foot's on the gas. Let's go playoff racing in 2018. Green flag flies from Darlington. We're off and away. And the 6th car, who again comes into tonight as the race winner from last week, the leader in the championship, and your defending series champion. It's Ryan Luza, leads first time down the back straightaway. And I wonder how much longer Leahy waits, and even if somebody like a Bobby Zelensky gets impatient, he's thought about it a few times, as not willing to commit into 24, all over the back of the 54 now. There is the impatience, almost dumped him off of quarter number 2, and then we'll go side by side again for 8th. He'll squeeze him up and into the wall. The 24 wants to move now. There's a lot of contact, 3-4 times, and the 54 is going to wreck to the inside. Guest is going to spin, and he will come back up on track, and the 11's going to get turned. And Michael Conti was willing to go if the opportunity presented itself, and Ryan Luza made a mistake. The 5 does not let him regain, and that time by it's a lap led for Michael Conti at the completion of lap number 48, the 5th car to the race lead in this one. And now we'll see just how much that 5 was holding back to ride around there in second if he's able to pull some distance on the 6th car.
I think you're right with that one, and we're pretty much in the window. With it being 183 laps, you might want to do an extra lap or 2 just to get that sort of extra little buffer with the fuel and the tires going down later on. The 5 of Michael Conti enters pit road down the back straightaway, though, so he's going to be the first of our leaders to really blink here. It looks like Ryan Michael Luza and Ray Alfala, neither of them are keen on coming down pit road just yet.
The commitment on the pit road is going to be tons of fun to watch. You know, Schoenberg just came in. He had a big slide. And Matt Bosa, who's been on an absolute tear, he went 30th to 11th. He also pitted. Here comes Ryan Luza, though. Look at all this space. Look at the car in front of him. So sideways. At most racetracks, you duck down into turn 4. You get maybe 5 seconds to play with to try to make up a little bit of time. But for where you dive down in 3 and for how much of that apron that you can proceed at your own risk with, there is tons of time that can be made up, or tons of time that can be lost on your pit road entry. Yeah, drivers going to be unlapping themselves as soon as they can, and Conti's already done so. So that's the key for the 5 machine. The risk, obviously, with pitting is you go a lap down. Right now, positions 10 through 32nd are all a lap down. As Fayash now slides in the pit road, you can see him push it out about as wide as you can get to the barrels without actually getting into the fence. And I believe that'll just about cycle everything through. You're on board with Michael Conti. He should go back to the race lead in this one as he now works himself around Joe Letteriello. The 2014 series champion looks for the white flag at a quarter number 4. He hopes that the lap traffic doesn't cause any issues. 1 lap left to go for Michael Conti. The 8 drops off to the inside and gives him space. And we've been talking about the improvements that this 5 team has been making for the last several weeks, but did not get any wins in the regular season. That made him tied for last in your championship 8 headed into this evening. But as he heads to 3 and 4 for the final time, his first win on the season is going to guarantee himself a ticket to the Homestead finale. Michael Conti goes all the way and wins at Darlington.
What a show by the 5-car, caution-free for 183 laps, and he is going to best the 2-car of Ray Alfala officially by 8.6 seconds. And that's going to send a statement, as you mentioned. He's going to Homestead. He'll be in that Final 4, and there's one driver that I don't want to say necessarily was on the radar, but we talked off the top of the show of the quote-unquote big 3, guys like Luz Keegan. Obviously, Ray Alfala is going to be there, and I think you got to add the 5 of Michael Conti to that list. He's going to be a contender, always is. It seems like he gets hot at the end of these seasons.
Oh, that was late.
Hey guys! This week, the 6 on my team are Truex, Logano, Larson, Blaney, Chase, and Suarez. For the rest of you, better luck next week.
She's missing out, dude.
Yeah. The all-new NASCAR Fantasy Live. Visit NASCAR.com/fantasy and build your team today.
Tonight from the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to playoff race number 2 of the 2018 NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. So happy that you're joining us once again on a Tuesday evening. Myself, Evan Pasoko, Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth on the call with you, alongside our director Hugo Luis downstairs, who's bringing us to you this evening Tim, and we head out of Darlington to round number 15 on this 2018 campaign. But the main point of conversation into tonight is Michael Conti's win from 2 weeks ago. He's headed to the championship 4, and now we deal with those 3 remaining spots.
And there's 7 drivers that are hoping to join him in that final race at Homestead by winning here this evening. The big talk has been you have to win one of these races in order to get locked into that final championship showdown. You got to believe it's on those 7 drivers' minds that haven't gone to victory lane in that first round.
Exactly what Conti did. He gets that free ticket through. These next 3 weeks are going to be stress-free for him. That's a look at your playoff grid. So courtesy of the win, Michael Conti advances in. He will be in that winner-take-all finale at Homestead in a couple of weeks' time. But everybody else to the left-hand side of your screen, their fates still be determined. Again, the top 4 cars could go in. It could happen on 4 different wins. But on points right now, Ryan Luza, Ray Alfala, Keegan Leahy above that cut line, all by single-digit spots. You've got Nick Ottinger, Matt Busa tied for P5 and 6. They're only 3 points back, and then a little bit more of a jump to Bobby Zelensky and Nicholas Shelton. Will refer back to the current championship standings a lot as the night goes on. The simple answer is if your point spread is in gray, look for the race win, and doing it here tonight at Indianapolis Motor Speedway could certainly make your life a lot easier. Again, 2 races now into the round of 4, so a long way still to go. Again, at least 1 driver may have an opportunity to get in by points. We'll have to see how all of this plays out. Tonight's practice qualifying session and all of that is now drawn to a close. So let's go trackside and take a look at your RaceSpotTV starting grid. Pole position on this one as the field rolls off goes to the 13 of Brad Davies. It will bring us to green tonight. He is joined on the outside of the front row by your defending series champion, Ryan Luza. Back on row 2, Corey Vincent starts third tonight with Bobby Zelensky rolling off in 4th position, and Zach Novak rounds through your top 5.
Chris Shearburn going to roll off from position number 6. Michael Conti pressures off. He's going to roll off position number 7. Jimmy Mullis in 8th, Blake Reynolds in 9th, and Colton Davis rounds out your top 10.
Ray Alfala, the absolute master in this series at this racetrack. He start 11th with Keegan Leahy. In 12th, Brian Schoenberg. In 13th, Nick Ottinger. In 14th, rounding out your top 15, the 74th, Taylor Hurst.
Just alongside him, you'll find Logan DeClampett on the outside of row 8. He'll start 16th position tonight. Michael Guest gets 17th on the grid. It'll be a P18 for Casey Kerwin, and then back on row 10, 19th is Christian Challenger, and Brandon Pipgrass rounds out the top 20.
Andrew Fash, the 3rd, rolls off 21st. Playoff contender Matt Busa, 22nd. Chris Overland, 23rd. Casey Tucker, 24th. And Phil Diaz, 25th.
Tail end of the field, 1-year playoff contenders Nicholas Shelton in 26th. Marcus Richardson in 27th, Ryan Lowe in 28th, David Rattler 29th, Alex Bergeron in 30th, with Joe Letteriello and Adam Gilliland taking up the caboose of the field.
It's how they'll roll to the green flying tonight. Top to bottom, a look at your RaceSpotTV starting grid as we get set for 250 miles around this 2.5-mile rectangular oval that is known as the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Again, a very critical checkered flag. It may wave at the end of the evening and could possibly offer another driver a free pass to Homestead. 7 playoff drivers fighting for 3 spots as the playoff continues right here and right now from the Brickyard. A pace car down and in. Going to be a long wait to the front straightaway. They'll cross the yard of bricks. Brad Davies takes the green flag and playoff race 2 of this 2018 NASCAR Antifreeze iRacing Series is underway to turn 1. Race leader out in front, side by side for second. Vincent on the inside of Luza can't do it as they get him up to speed.
It's great to see Brad Davies out in front and leading this field. The battle raged on for second for a little while, but they got single file behind your leader. It's Ryan Luza now to second. Corey Vincent falls to third. Zelensky and Novak your top 5. Bobby Zelensky has the 15 charging hard into turn 3 as Novak kind of stormed that corner a little bit, still trying to learn where the braking points and everything are with your other competitors on the racetrack in racing condition. And looks like that 83 of Bobby Zelensky going to come out in 4th. There's a driver that really needs a decent run here tonight, Evan. Everybody says you've got to win to get into the final round of the playoffs, but if you can, possibly squeeze in on points, I'm sure Zelensky's thinking about that in the back of his mind after last week at Darlington.
Yeah, there's certainly a ton of time. Obviously, tonight at Indianapolis, series will head to Atlanta in 2 weeks' time, and then Dover. So there's a lot of opportunities to make up points, but certainly when you look at how close the likes of Ottinger Busa are, would have mentioned only 3 points off of the cut line. You start to get the double digits early on. Not a good step in the right direction. He's going to be under fire, though. It's the 50 to Novak to the inside. That fight is for 4th on track. There's the 15 right up down on the curbs. Of course, these 4 very flat and separate 9 degrees of banky to quarters here, unlike at most tracks where we loop turns 1 and 2 in with one another. They are very different quarters here, and of course the entry into 1 and 3 going to be a lot more tractors. You're going to slow them way more down compared to when you come off of that short chute where you're looking to carry as much speed as you can to the following straightaway. There is a position picked up for the number 15 at Novak. The 5 crossover, though. Michael Conti wants his second gain spot in the opening 3 laps. Not sure he's going to have to run off the 2 to do it, but they'll be side by side with the 27 of Jimmy Mullis looking on.
And many will be happy to hear the number 5 Camaro ZL1 of Michael Conti will be taking a peek at the inside here of Zach Novak. Has the advantage line down on the braking zone, but we did see Bobby Zielinski reign supreme on the top side on the other side of the racetrack. But no, as Michael Conti is going to take that spot away, and Jimmy Mullis is going to try to follow him on through in his number 27 Toyota Camry, and he will do so. So Zach Novak not liking that top groove whatsoever.
Not a fan of that. We'll duck back and lawn it. Of course, the interesting thing with Michael Conti is if you go just based on points, he is 2nd of your 8 playoff drivers. Of course, though, that win automatically advances him into the next round. If I'm 2nd through 4th in the points right now, I've got no problem with Michael Conti going out there playing spoiler and getting another race win. That guarantees that the position I'm in will be available for a points transfer. Now, of course, if you are below that cut line, you, of course, do not want Michael Conti anywhere near the front. You need to be able to get up there and fight with him. But for all intents and purposes, Michael Conti doesn't really matter where he is over the course of these next few weeks. Again, his fate is sealed, and it is those 7 other drivers still to be determined. And Tim, of course, as we take a look at the number 5 coming off of the quarter, the Camaro ZL1s recently to the iRacing service. First time we're seeing them here on a Tuesday night in the NASCAR Antifreeze iRacing series, and one of them's in the battle for the race lead as here comes Ryan Luza to the inside, and he'll snatch it away from pole sitter Brad Davies. First lead change comes at lap 5, and it is a Ford Fusion to P1.
Yeah, the Ford moves to the front, and Ryan Luza will begin to pull away from Brad Davies. You mentioned about Michael Conti. If he wins, it's a 2nd win. It's a win that those playoff drivers cannot get to lock themselves into Homestead. But how about a guy like the 13 you see on your screen right there, Brad Davies? He's a driver that's fighting for points, so if he goes to victory lane, it doesn't impact that playoff picture as you ride on board with the Fast Track Sims number 6, looking back to Brad Davies. And we'll talk about it throughout these next couple of rounds as well, Evan. Yes, we are talking about the playoffs. Somebody's going to win the championship at Homestead, but there's other positions throughout the field that they're fighting for to get locked into this NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series for the 2019 season. Like Brad Davies, trying to get those points, as many as he can, to lock themselves in. And look at this mess right here. Ray Alfala in the 2, Logan Clampett in the 46, Keegan Leahy taking a peek to the inside of the 66 of Reynolds, 74 of Hurst is there. That's a hornet's nest right now, fighting just around your top 10 positions.
And certainly a lot of eyes going to be on that 2 of Alfala. Big fan of this Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Spoke with him last time out and said that he was very much looking forward to this one. Another easy way to identify who's the playoff driver, who isn't, if you haven't been following along with this all year, is those blue Peak Antifreeze windshield banners. The drivers with the blue windshield banners are part of your championship 8, and there is a ton of stuff as well, to the point that Tim made Randy going on outside of our playoff grid as we go on board with 12th placed runner Taylor Hurst. He's chasing down that red Ford of Alfala in front, but it is going to be Logan Clampett to the inside who passes him. So there's a change for position in about the middle of the pack. But unlike our real-life counterparts at Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, where 16 drivers go to the playoffs, half that number, only 8 make it to this point. So a vast majority of the cars on track not involved in that championship fight, of course, trying to maintain a top 20 in the points to be able to maintain their spot on the grid for 2019.
You know people are going to want that, because being able to slip into that point structure, be able to keep yourself safe going into the next season, not having to run through the winter in the Pro Series in order to maintain your black stripe. That basically means you go from having to run basically 8 months out of the year in the Peak Series to potentially a full 12 between this primary series and, of course, having to keep your license. And there's some people who do just that every single season. They do very, very good, very consistent at keeping their licenses and racing for them in that pro qualifier series. As the battles continue to rain on, things start to get somewhat spread out. I have seen, I think it's Keegan Leahy trying to get a little bit racy on the number 66 of Blake Reynolds, but not just quite close enough to get there. He's poked the nose through the short sheet a couple of times. Now going to poke it a little bit down the back straightaway. So with him showing the nose like this may suggest to me that he may not be overly racy at the moment, and if anything, he might be struggling with temps right now, maybe have a little bit too much tape on that front grille and is constantly poking the nose trying to get that engine cooled down.
In the long straightaways here at Indy, if you're tucked up behind somebody as you look out of the back end of the 66, you'll see Leahy get a little bit of a run off of the corner. Means that drafting is a big factor on these long straightaways. Not so much in the short shoot, but certainly this is a very momentum-based racetrack. As again, Leahy can't get any closer than about that half the car length. And Reynolds may be being held up a tad bit as well by Taylor Hurst. That's a 3-car pack right now. You can see even in front and behind this group as they roll through corner number 2 right now. And it is very difficult to separate yourself by a couple of tenths of a second as the 24 once again goes to the inside. I think he's got the speed this time. The 66 recognizes that, rolls out at the throttle so that he can tuck in line, and it'll be a position gain for Keegan Leahy. He dropped a couple of spots early, so the 24 snatches one of them back.
Had the opportunity to chat with Keegan Leahy on Friday night at Scotia Speed World, and when I chatted with him, he said that out of all these playoff rounds that we see heading into Homestead, this was probably his best opportunity to go to victory lane, to lock himself in to Homestead, but he also understands that you probably have to win one of these rounds in order to go to the Homestead Miami Speedway. But right now, running in position number 14 as you ride on board with him. And remember back to Darlington early in the race, little bit of impatience between himself and Michael Guest, had that front end all tore up on that race car, and right now around the same position that he was running in that race at the Darlington Raceway, finished in the top 10, and right now Keegan Leahy in 14th. You can't afford to have impatience ruin your night, and right now methodically working his way through the field. He's got the 74 first right ahead of him.
It was certainly a tough lesson to learn. He waited about as long as he felt like he could, but eventually decided to try to make that move. And while he was not wrecked out of the race, of course, as you mentioned, that damage really hindered his ability to go any further up through the field. He did finish better than a lot of drivers did. He comes into tonight 4th and only 3 points above the first spot on the outside. Of course, the driver trying to catch him is Nick Ottinger, and Ottinger at this very moment running more than 3 positions in front of him. So even though Leahy's running pretty comfortably mid-pack in 14th, he does have a little bit of work to do. The 05 of Ottinger, who's up 5 positions. A big part of that is how well the 05 has been early in this race. I think the way the points would work out live is that Ottinger would be in, Leahy would be out. Of course, with Ryan Luza leading it, would be able to go on to take that win and the automatic transfer. Somebody else who, of course, has made some moves early, Colton Davis, quietly so. The number 11 car started in P10. There's him right now, coming off of turn 4. He's moved his way into the top 5.
Yeah, he's done a good job. He's really your only other mover besides the 05 of Nick Ottinger. A couple people a little bit deeper in the field. Logan Clampett's moved up a couple spots as well, but for the most part, those are your biggest movers. Your biggest mover, though, is actually one driver who struggled at Darlington in the playoffs, and that's the 12 machine, Nick Shelton. Started 26 up to P18 right now, so showing a little bit of life, a little bit of not giving up here from the slip angle driver in his lime green Camaro. Probably didn't put too much effort in the paint booth after what happened at Darlington, and put a lot more effort into testing. And that's one of the other things to maybe talk about tonight, Evan, is that for a lot of these drivers, a bit of a shakeup after coming off a throwback week. Of course, the Camaro might be the biggest hype release for these guys coming out. A lot of people are going to be fans of that new car just because they love the way they love its gorgeous looks. However, there's been a handful of changes to these cars through the build as well. So these drivers and teams have had to be busy through their week 13 getting their cars up to pace here, and I think some maybe have probably fallen a little bit short, and others seem to have hit the mark.
In the 12 machine, it may very well have not been able to get a paint scheme done on that car because they have been busy tested. Of course, that is a completely new car. That Camaro, you will no longer see the SS here on Tuesday nights in the NASCAR Antifreeze iRacing series, but to the point that you made, schedule is always, I guess, built around that new iRacing build. We've gone through a couple of them this year. Drivers always talk about it, and there certainly has been a lot of work put in the last few days to get readjusted. You're looking at a fight a little bit further back. That's the 34 of that. Boosted to the inside, a very bright car up top. No way you're not going to see the 47 of Chris Overland. It will be difficult for him to defend that position on the outside, and it will be Busa moving up into P18 as they come out of turn 4. But that's another pack of 4 or 5 cars that just can't get split up.
And there's another driver that did a ton of work the last time we raced at Darlington as the 78 of Challenger goes to the inside of the 47 of Overland. That's the 34 of Busa. That race at Darlington, and I'm going to touch some wood here, went caution-free, green to checkered, and Matt Busa had a subpar qualifying effort and had to work under green to make his way up to the front of the field where he finished. And Busa this evening qualifies 22nd. He's already up to position number 18. So not saying it looks exactly the same as it did at Darlington, Evan, but it's currently, and albeit it is early, 14 laps in, playing the same song and same tune as we did 2 weeks ago. Busa has definitely turned some heads, though, with the run that he had that week and the run that he's having tonight. So keep an eye on the 34. He might be one of those drivers to play spoiler when it comes to that Homestead Miami Speedway.
Certainly think we're going to see at least one of these 4 playoff races in the open round be spoiled by a non-playoff driver. We've got a good fight talking about playoff drivers. How about the 5 of Michael Conti? Started 7th, he's up to 4th, and almost completed a pass on the 10 of Corey Vincent for 3rd that last time and won. You see the big move by the 13, Brad Davies, awfully close to the outside wall on the exit of quarter number 2. All kinds of out of shape. I thought maybe that would have opened up the door for Corey Vincent, and it will, because the 13 blows the entrance to turn 3. So it'll be a battle for 2nd, and it is Vincent to the inside of Davies. Last week's winner, Michael Conti, going to be in tow to the inside, and your Polster now falls to the lowest point he's been all night as Davies falls to P4. It is now Corey Vincent up to 2nd, and Michael Conti right there as well in 3rd as you ride on board with him.
That 15 car has not been, that 13 car has not been happy with it whatsoever after those first handful of laps. When up to a couple laps before Ryan Michaeluza picked up that race lead, he's just been falling like a stone. So not quite having the pace is Mr. Brad Davies right now. He's, I think, probably going to continue to fall. So really unfortunate here. He showed good short run pace and, of course, very, very fast in qualifying, but he's just quickly gone the wrong way. Here's not even 20 laps into this thing. He's already fallen down to 4th, and Colton Davis is now the next one reeling him in.
Colton Davis going to be the next driver up. Again, Davies led for the opening 4 laps in this race, then dropped back to 2nd. Took a little bit longer for the likes of Vincent Conti to catch up because that gap between 1st and 2nd is pretty big. You see as the field comes off the corner, first car left-hand side going out at the shot. That's Lucy. He's got a 2nd lead over Vincent and Conti, Davies, and Davis. We're on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 right now. That's the view out of the front end of the race leader, though. Clean sailing for Ryan Luza. All 32 cars who took the green flag in this race still scored on the lead lap. And when you're talking about 53-second lap times, there is nowhere near lap traffic anytime soon.
And when I talk to some of these crew chiefs about pit stop strategy tonight, and obviously the last couple of rounds have come into green flag pit stops, as you see Bobby Zielinski on your screen under fire from looked like Nick Ottinger there. Colton Davis way ahead of them, and there's that 05 of Ottinger back behind Zielinski. I asked a couple of these drivers and teams, I said, so what's the strategy tonight? And I got one kind of intriguing answer as the 05 goes to the inside. One of them said, if you do 2 stops, you're going to run the tank dry on those 3 runs. So I said around lap 33-ish or so, and he said, we're going to run the tank dry if we do 2 stops. And the key word was if we do 2 stops. So keep that one in mind. We might see somebody go on the edge and try something different, but general consensus is around 2 stops here tonight, Evan. And if you do 2 stops, you're going to run the tank dry. Conti to the inside of Vincent. He'll take 2nd.
The move for P2, it is nice and easy for the 5 car. Again, I think Conti was going to challenge Vincent for what was at that time 3rd position until we saw the mistake of Brad Davies. Of course, you saw him get away sideways off of the corner, and then he certainly missed the entry to turn 3 after the straightaway. I think that's what allowed Vincent to hang on for that little bit longer, but it is all the 5 of Michael Conti now as he took a second look at how that exchange went down. So he's in P2 and closing in on Ryan Luza. You see noticeably the gap. Those are your race leaders in turn 1. The 5 is coming. And we mentioned this last week when he went on to get that win at Darlington, that the 5 did not have the start of the season at all, Randy, that he was looking for, but so many improvements and had so many great runs as that regular season started to close out. And he is looking awfully sporty again here tonight. The 5 car keeping that momentum rolling. Started 7th. He's already up to P2.
That entire team, I think, struggled at the start of the year. Of course, they snagged the win at Daytona, but when we started getting into the regular races, they were a little bit hit or miss. Sometimes they'd be awesome, other times not so much. As we take a look at Logan Clampett picking the spot up on the 15 of Zach Novak, as Novak's now has a close moment with Chris Shearburn as they come off of corner number 4. And Ray Alfala, a big wiggle behind them as he came off that 4th corner and down the long front straightaway. He's likely to get freight trained now by Taylor Hurst. Actually, no, Taylor not close enough. So Ray will be somewhat lucky, somewhat fortunate to be able to hold on to his position here. But Michael Conti, the last 2 laps, has reeled in 3 to 4 tenths of a second each on Ryan Michael Luza. So that gap for the race lead is only down to about a 10th or so as they run down the long back straightaway and in towards corners number 3 and 4 here at the Brickyard. So that group done very, very well to pick up some speed, and they have found the speed and found the momentum when they need to find it. And of course, Evan, with him winning out at Darlington last week, if he wins here tonight at Indianapolis, it's essentially the same as if none of the playoff contenders do it. So he'd still put everyone in an interesting point situation as that 5 of Conti gets a good run off turn 4 and might take a peek into 1.
We'll see if he does decide to make the dive. The gap is still a bit of car length between Luza and Conti. It is not going to happen this time. If Michael Conti were to win tonight or any of the other races on this opening round, it would guarantee that at least 1 points paid position would be above that transfer line and headed to the championship 4. Again, there's a possibility that with 4 spots and 4 races, that all 4 of the drivers that end up in our Homestead finale could have been drivers who won their way in. Again, I think that at least 1 of those races may be spoiled by an auto-playoff driver, but of course, if Conti goes 2 for 2, that guarantees at least 1 points transfer spot. The 5's right there, though he doesn't look like he's in any hurry of a rush to make the move. Probably could have dove to the inside on 4 if he really wanted to. Backs it off, he goes to set it up. The move's not going to happen this time by as he goes way to the inside to see if the 6 is going to pull over and let him go. Not the case. We'll see how long Luza can hang on to this.
One driver at the top of the screen, I think, missed pit road. Was it Brian Schoenberg possibly in the 55? There was a black car at the very top of the screen that it looked like he was coming down onto pit road, Evan, and made the late fake, but everybody in the top 15 staying on the racetrack right now. There it is on your screen. And, oh boy, that was pretty close. Maybe it wasn't a pit maneuver. Maybe he was trying to stay off the wall, and there's a little bit of damage to that race car. As Conti goes to the lead position in front, he'll drive it past the 6 of Ryan Luza, and we'll have a new leader up front. The 5 goes to the forefront.
And the 6, I think, finally saw what was coming there. He actually pulled down to the inside on the back straightaway, let the 5 go by. Here's the second look at it on the RaceSpotTV replay. You'll see off of the corner. Not a whole lot of speed loss, but he goes down low, allows Conti to keep that preferred lane up top. And for the second time tonight, we're going to have a new race leader, and it was at the completion of lap number 22 that Michael Conti has now gone to the point, and we will see just how much speed the number 5 machine has. He obviously loves these long green flag runs. That race at Darlington went caution free, and we're nearly a quarter of the way complete for the Brickyard as he goes though to make sure he's not offering any extra draft to the cars behind him that it needs. Michael Conti continues to roll. Now your race leader from Indy.
I don't think he needs to worry about giving that 6 car any slipstream, what with already being 15 to 20 car lengths out ahead of that 6 of Ryan Michael Luza as they stroll through corners number 3 and 4. So that 5 car is hooked up. Let's take a peek as they get ready to come through and pass pit entry if we have any take risks. And of course, If you're going to go 2 stops, you're going to be coming in on lap 33 and 66 roughly. No one's coming down pit road just yet. And I would think if you were going to 3 stop this, you'd want to probably come down pit road a little sooner rather than later. And everyone goes right on past pit entry. So no early takers just yet.
Yeah, there's certainly, you know, the math works out very easy in a 100-lap race here at Indy. If you go for a 3-stopper, you split it at 25, 50. Yeah, no kidding, at 25, 50, and 75. And there's going to be a little bit of variance, a couple of laps here, a couple of laps later, and so forth. But it looks like, at least for the moment, nobody really going for the way undercut. And when these races go green, you obviously have to factor that into your strategy as well, Tim. This is an incredibly long and slow pit road here at Indianapolis. It's 60 miles an hour, and at some other tracks it'll feel pretty fast, but you're just aching to get to your pit box when you do it here.
Yeah, very long time to get down to your box, and got to be on to pit road. Maybe not as tricky as we saw last week at Darlington, but still definitely have to whoa that car up and get it down to pit speed and not lose any time on pit road. As you mentioned, it's very long, and there's could be a couple of places where you could lose a little bit of ground. Corey Vincent has moved to position number 2 around Ryan Luza. Luza has fallen back, and looks like Colton Davis is on the attack as well in car number 11 as he's looking over the 6 as you see it on your screen down the back straightaway. Looks like Luza losing a little bit of ground here in the second half of this run, or the later half of this run, going towards this first round of pit stops. Something to keep an eye on as we move forward here throughout the evening.
And Davis was running in front of Davis, obviously, started on pole. Colton Davis started to P10, so they have exchanged that position recently. The 11 moving up to 4th, and I think he, based on the speed, should be able to get up at around the 6 and the 10 here shortly as these 3 cars get all backed up. It's a good look as you go on aboard with those drivers coming off in the corner. Davis right now trying to find a way through. You can see Conti check it out in the distance there, over a second removed from this 3-way fight right now for P2, 3, and 4.
A huge gap already. The 6th Ryan Michaeluza is just going to get off it. He's going to surrender that 3rd spot up to Mr. Colton Davis. So Colton's done a good job thus far, running his way up from 10th to that 3rd position, done it all on pace. So very good speed underneath that 11 car, and he now tucks under the rear spoiler of Corey Vincent. Let's see if maybe Colton can't make something happen down this front straightaway. No, not going to be nearly close enough. It's a very good exit as well for that 2nd place runner of Corey Vincent. Michael Conti continues to push his advantage as he crosses the yard of bricks. 1.7 seconds is what he gets to that time, so 0.4 of a second stretched out.
Certainly check it out on this, but all by himself. You see Davies in the background there, Nick Ottinger. There's a ton of space between your top 5 or so and the cars there on back. There is the 05 Nick Ottinger. He's trailing Brad Davies, but there's virtually nobody behind him. It is a 3-second gap between Nick Ottinger there in P6 and then Bobby Zelensky in 7th. He's under attack by Logan DeClamp, and that is going to be a battle for 7th and 8th as we head to turn 3. The 46 tries to squeeze inside, couldn't make it stick down low, and Zelensky will defend to live another day, but you can very clearly see that somebody up in this group is going to be slowing everybody down because there's a huge gap in front of them and a big long line out the back end.
And you look out back here, you've got drivers that are battling all throughout this pack. Chris Shearburn has the 34 of Busa. There's Busa coming from the rear of the field once again this week, and he's up and battling for a top 10 position right now as he's got one more car to get to before he gets into that top 10, and he's rolling the center really, really well. Taylor Hurst is right there, and I think Matt Busa is going to be in the top 10 before this lap is all said and done.
He looks to the inside to try to make that move once more, and this goes to show you that there's tons of traffic going on to Beta Pack, but we look back up towards the front. Colton Davis has gotten away 3rd from Luza, so Luza's now at the lowest point he's been all night, running in 4th position. And in the long run, really shuffling up the running order towards the front of the field, and now we will see how long the 11 waits to make the move on the 10 at Corey Vincent. You would imagine he wants to get around him sooner than later, get out in front, get a couple of laps unobstructed, because pit stops, if you're going for the 2-stopper, going to be very shortly here as we work lap 29, still green from the Brickyard.
I think if you're going for a 3-stopper, Evan, I think you've waited too long. I think you would have wanted to come down pit road already and push your advantage a little bit. What with the old, with the brand new tires, get it about 6, 7, 8 laps of advantage out of them before the rest of the guys that are trying to push it on too come down pit road. So I think at this point, pretty much the entire field is hoping to hit that lap 33 marker. Let's see if any of them could do it. And I think importantly, let's see if anyone can get to lap number 34. Because if you can hit lap 34, that's going to take a lot of pressure off the second and third stint of the night.
And if you go 33 all the way in, that's all you can do. You're going to be 1 lap shy. So one of those runs does need to be at least 34 laps in distance. Of course, if you could go any additional time, the better off it is for you. You take a look at some of the spacing on that static shot in turn 1. See that a couple of cars falling off for the back end of the pack. But again, so far, all 32 cars who started still running on the lead lap in this one as we await that move to be made for second between Vincent and Davis. I have to think it's going to be sooner rather than later, but Michael Conti is now 2.6 seconds out in front from P1. And when we talk about this pit stops, Tim, we had mentioned, you know, the length of the pit lane here, of course, and the entry onto pit road might be a little bit easier than Darlington. I think that racetrack's pretty much up there for one of the most difficult pit road entries on the iRacing service, of course, but the tricky thing here is on the pit road exit. You're going to have to navigate those access roads on the inside of turns 1 and 2, and that is a ton of time there that can either be made or lost on your exit.
Absolutely, it can be. You cannot afford to lose any time on pit road, and you saw it with the speed shot. The top 6, and we talked about this about 10 laps ago, have separated themselves from this little pack right here. It's almost like you have 2 distinct packs to the point where your top 6 are running within 4 or 5 seconds of each other, as Jimmy Mullis almost has a moment off of corner number 2. And then you have this pack right here, which is led by Bobby Zelensky, and Logan Clamp has been trying to get to the inside for a couple laps. Chris Shearburn working away at Taylor Hurst as he has been the last couple of laps, and just behind them, they're side by side, Brian Schoenberg and Keegan Leahy putting on a show, and Ray Alfala hasn't really been able to do a whole lot, sitting back in position number 16 right behind them. But this is a long race. There's lots of laps to work and still lots of time to get to the front of the field. There goes Shearburn again, and there goes Busa working that inside off 4.
In fact, the last few laps haven't been all that good for Ray. As you look at the side-by-side fight in front of him, it's Shearburn on the inside, and how about the outside? Taylor Hurst keeps the foot in it, and he will be able to defend that position for the moment. Now even that 24, Keegan Leahy going to the outside. The 55 is Schoenberg nowhere to go. Maybe he wants to go 3 wide. Look at the 36, going to block him all the way down to the grass. The 55 is going to go up topside, and maybe it'll be a third car to go around on the outside. Shearburn, though, really wants to hold on to the bottom as the 24 misses now the entry to turn 3, and it groups everybody back up. And you see that 5 all over him. Schoenberg wants to get going as Leahy throws away those spots and just made courtesy of that mistake. He's going to be headed down pit lane. There's the call for the 24. He wanted to get low because he pits at lap 32, and I think he got the fence on entry.
I think he just did. I think he may have clipped that cone maybe a little bit. So Keegan Leahy, Ray Alfala, and Nick Shelton all on pit road. I see Brad Davies down there as well. They're the first 4 to come down pit road. A couple other at the back of the field, Alex Bergeron and Adam Gilliland. They are going to be the first cars to come down pit road for service. This being lap 33, this of course gets you to that 1/3 marker relatively easily. Let's see if anyone else is going to take it, as that number 5 of Michael Conti, who's casually, by the way, strolled out to a 3-second lead over Corey Vincent. He comes off that 4th corner, and he's off the throttle as well. Leader coming down pit road. I believe that's it's Corey Vincent coming down pit road. Ryan Michael Luza. I think we can expect to see the bulk of the field hit pit road right now.
You take a look at the pit road entry, almost everybody coming down, and it is right at lap 33, so it's your 1/3 marker. As I think unanimously the decision is a 2-stop strategy here from Indy. Your concern is obviously when so many cars are on pit road at the same time that an incident may occur. In the meantime, Colton Davis, you see him off the turn 2. He has become your race leader. But I always like the aggressiveness and the foresight that we've seen out of Michael Conti tonight, and of course last week at Darlington. We had questioned earlier on in that race, Tim, some of the drivers still hanging out a couple of seconds behind the 5. You know, do they go for the short pit, try to make up some time on the 5 by getting those fresher tires sooner? That's what you would expect somebody to try to do, is to see him lead that race off the pit road. And the 5 to prevent that, he went with the short pit, made sure that he wasn't waiting around opening up the door for anybody else, and he'll do the same thing here tonight, practically kicking off the strategy. And I think when it all cycles through, he'll still comfortably be out in front.
Oh, they're going to fight to get onto pit road as the final few drivers that did not come down pit road on those first couple laps are going to make their way down onto pit road. The 09 on your screen is David Rattler. It looks like he's got a little bit of damage to the side, and there's the leader once this thing cycles all through, Michael Conti in the forefront, number 5, as for the most part everybody down on pit road getting service to their race cars. And there's the top 2, or the 2 that have come down pit road off of turn 4 and coming down the front straightaway, Michael Conti, and it looks like Brad Davies had a pretty respectable stop.
And Davies, your pole sitter again, came in that 1 lap sooner. And when you talk about lap times for the Brad Davies camp, his best lap of the race came, obviously, lap 2, it was a 49.3. His slowest lap was a 53.5. That is a huge discrepancy of 4 seconds. Fresh tires compared to old tires. So even just short pitting by 1 lap gets you the fresher tires that much sooner. You can make up the better part of that 4-second differential. So that's how Brad Davies, who again started on a pole, but began to slide the later on we went into that long run, has been able to make up so much time on Conti through the exchange. He'll probably end up P2 through all of this. Look how far out of the back end Corey Vincent is. Not the best to stop, so I would imagine, for the 10 car, who looks like he lost some time.
Yeah, not a great situation for a lot of your guys up amongst that front sort of handful of positions. Ryan Michaeluza seemed to have done a pretty dang good job for himself as well. He's going to be coming off of turn 4 now. I think he should end up about P3, and considering where he was, he needs to be happy with that. The likes of Colton Davis, Nick Gonder, pretty much the rest of the field, something must have went wrong on pit road for them, considering how far out in front Michael Conti finds himself, and considering he wasn't one of the first group to come down pit road. As actually it's going to be Luza cycling just in behind Brad Davies, and Davies is going to give that spot right back up immediately. So to the second spot goes Ryan Michaeluza, as Ray Alfalo is now trying to work his way forward, and he finds himself wheel to wheel dealing with his teammate, the 83 of Bobby Zelensky.
And Ray Alfalo really wants to come out on the better end of all of this. He had fallen to 16th position by the time the pit stops came around. That's the car on the inside. Logan clamping way down low as he continues to keep those throwback colors on board. He goes side by side with Bobby Zelensky in a fight for 8th and 9th position. And looks like Alfalo's going to leave the outside open, so Zelensky going to go from defense to offense. He'll squeeze the O2 down, and he's got it. Here they come on the outside, but a nice move by Zelensky to move to what's going to be P7.
And there are 2 drivers that prior to the pit stop were battling hard for a position, albeit a little bit further back, I do believe, or 1 spot ahead. They were battling for position number 7 before, so I guess they're battling for position number 7 now. But Ray Alfalo was one of those drivers that was outside the top 10, and he's worked his way up via those pit stops, but now he's under fire. It looks like the 27 of Jimmy Mullis will point that thing towards the inside this time by, and just ahead, it looks like Logan Clampett trying to get back to the inside of the 83 of Bobby Zelensky. They were battling before the stop, and they're battling after the stop for pretty much the same position.
And it's a big pickup, though, for the likes of Clampett. Started 16th, now racing for that 8th position. Zelensky did not have a very good opening exchange to this race. If you remember, he started from the outside of row 2 and 4th, and then started to trickle down a little bit, so he really wants to turn things around here on this second run. Maybe made some necessary adjustments to the car. 46 wants to go low. He's not going to be given the space, and Zelensky very vehement here on wanting to defend it, that number 7 position. But just like that, and really in the blink of an eye almost, it seems like that first cycle of green flag pit service has been completed. It moves us into the next portion of tonight's broadcast, which is brought to you by Peak Antifreeze and Coolant, the official antifreeze of NASCAR and proud title sponsor of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. 2 laps, it's all done. Everything cycled through. Michael Conti back to the race lead in this one, and here's an interesting exchange. Look at this. It is not for position. That is Ryan Luza, who started this race in second, but he is just now getting back to the lead lap. The 6 machine had a terrible trip down to the pit lane, and it looked like he had to have had some sort of a penalty as he came into the box and sat stationary. Either way, he's back on the lead lap now, but overall on the night, he's down at 31 positions from where he started.
That's a good catch, because I did not even notice that when he came off the pit road. I thought he may have just had an awesome pit sequence and managed to reel in Brad Davies. That's potentially a night killer right now for Ryan Michael Luther. The good news is that he still maintains lead lap position. One of the good things about running here in Indianapolis, of course, is that you don't lose tons of time on pit road in comparison to the lap time here. You're pushing nearly a minute a lap, 50 seconds around this 2.5 mile super speedway here in Indianapolis. So he'll maintain that lead lap presence as the two machine of Ray Alfala still finds himself in some fights, now dealing with the 34 Matt Busa and the 74 Taylor Hurst behind. They may think about making this 3 wide, but no, Taylor's going to think better of it down the back straightaway here as head in towards turn 3. And I think this might be, Evan, from memory, one of the worst runs we've seen from Ray Alfala at this racetrack in recent years. He normally comes out and dominates here at the Brickyard, but just not quite having the pace, and we've really seen that from all the slip angle cars tonight.
Yeah, it hasn't been a good night for them thus far. I just went back to confirm, and I believe it was a speeding penalty on exit for the 6 of Lusa. He was in quite the drag race off for the pit lane, and to come back in and serve a 5-second penalty or so in the box, and that's why he lost so much time. You see Alfala in this fight on the racetrack right now. It is the 74 Hurst on the inside, and Ray again went with a little bit of the short pit there to gain some time. That's why he went from about 16th to 7th. But now begins to slide back through the pack as the two searches for speed that he is typically pretty reliant on having here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But just to kind of hammer in that point on the 6 Alusa, Tim, if this race does go like we saw 2 weeks ago, caution-free, it's a catastrophic issue for the 6 car.
It is, but also when you look at that point standings, he does have a little bit of a cushion back to those guys, so you can't afford to lose points. But if there's one driver that has that cushion to do so, it's probably Ryan Lewis, as you see on your screen, the 83. Oh, we got one around. Caution is out. It's the 02 of Bergeron going around, and that will draw the first caution that we've seen in almost a month here in this series.
And the 02 is going to go around, and that may be a saving grace for Lusa and his championship hopes. There's the replay right there, and a little bit of a tricky camera angle on that one. It was Bergeron defending into the corner. The 28 went to make a move to the inside, and well, I don't think Bergeron really gave him enough space. Here's going to be a good look into the corner here. The 02 kind of left half a lane open. I think still at the same time, it was a little bit of a late and a hot dive for Casey Tucker, who pushed up a little bit, gives the 02 the punt, and it was a very lazy spin off the corner. Here's the view on board with Tucker. And you can see they just kind of come together. 2 cars going for one piece of real estate. That is going to be the first caution on the night.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a tricky incident, like you said. I have to say, though, if you're Alex Bergeron in this series, if you ever miss a corner that much, don't expect to be able to get down to the inside. I think Casey Tucker sort of realized, you know, Alex missed the corner. I should be able to slip up the inside here, but Alex ended up shutting the door on him. So definitely, I think guilt might fall a little bit both ways on that one. Probably just a bit of a race.
Sometimes it's just the way it goes, and it puts us in quite a tricky spot because again, everybody had just completed their pit service. Obviously, with the fall-off, we're expecting an abundance of cars to be coming down to the pit lane this time. It will obviously affect the strategy. Still needing one stop from this point on to the end to be able to make it on fuel. But something tells me that once you get one caution, chances are you might not be able to stretch out into another long run. Now, it can absolutely happen. Nobody's saying if you don't go 54 laps or however many laps you're going to be left to go off of the restart to the end. It's just not the way the trends tend to be, but let's see who comes down to the pit lane and what the strategy call is going to be. You get a mistake on a pit road here, it's going to cost you a lot more because everybody on top of each other to pit road entry.
You need to be perfect down here to try to gain a couple of spots and get yourself a little bit closer, but on the other side, you cannot afford any mistakes. I think the only driver that stayed out on the racetrack may very well be Adam Gilliland, trying to stay out, get a little bit of TV time for that Gary Mercer trucking number 8, but there's Conti down onto pit road. I'm sure they're focused on trying to hit their marks and get back out front first.
And the 5 is going to be the first driver into the pit box, looking for a 4-tire call, most assumingly, and fuel. Clean up on the right sides. Again, if you're back in the pack, you could try to go for 2, see if you want to roll the dice, but a majority of the field's going to go for the 4 tires. You'll watch the race off for the pit lane. There's going to be a lot of drivers awfully close, and the 5 caught sleeping on the exit. It is not a good exchange at all for Michael Conti, who's going to be about the 7th car off of pit road Clampett, Zelensky, Ottinger, Vincent, Davis, and Davies all beat him off the pit lane, and I think all of those cars went with a 4-tire call, so it is a terrible exchange for the 5.
Horrible there for Michael Conti, but with this much of the race left and the pace that 5 machine had, keep in mind, he came back from 7th at the start of this race to get the race lead he had, so he's been back about this point before, but good pit stops from a lot of people. Managed to pick themselves up some spots. Bobby Zelensky had a good one. Nick Ottinger, Corey Vincent. Of course, everyone out in front of Michael having good pit stops, but talk about this tragedy call from the number 8 of Adam Gilliland, coming up now to the race lead after starting dead last on the field, Evan. We've seen this a couple times in the past from him. Sometimes it works, but a couple other times it's caused a little bit of drama.
Yeah, we certainly see these moves go both ways. We'll find out if the 8 is going to stay out or if he does decide to concede, and it looks like he will eventually dive down to pit road. So yeah, he'll decide to take the bonus point by staying out, and he'll come get his 4 tires, and he will gracefully fall from 1st to 32nd as he comes down to pit this time, and everybody else goes around him. Wouldn't surprise me, though, you get later on in this race, you got some drivers who stay out, go for that defense at the track position instead of the speed, but not worth the risk at this point, as Gilliland's going to go all the way back to where he started at the back.
So now we're going to reset and get ready to go back to green. Brad Davies, Colton Davis, Ottinger, Vincent, Zelensky, top 5, and Zelensky's dancing partner, or it seems it has been for most of this race, is going to start on the outside of him in Logan Clampett. Then there's Michael Conti. You mentioned some caution flags coming out, maybe not getting to that 57-lap run to the end of the race, or what is now a 55-lap run to the end of this one, Evan. I think these guys have seen the respect level rise a little bit over these last 2 rounds. I think we see some green flag racing here. I think we make it to the pit stop, and that's going to be intriguing if we do go green to the pit stop. We've got under 60 laps to go. We know these guys can go 33 to 34 laps on a tank. If it goes green, you've got to make one more stop. We might see a couple of drivers undercut. Now they have that little bit of freedom. They don't have to run the tank dry. We might see some do it, but you don't necessarily have to if this thing goes green.
You've got about an extra 10 laps either way to play with as far as what that call's going to be to the end. Again, we've seen drivers can go those 33 laps. But if you were to split to the end of this race in half, you've only got to be looking at about 28 or so if you cut it right in the middle. So there's certainly a little bit of leeway. But this is going to be exciting. First time we've had a restart, as you mentioned. We haven't had many yellows in the last month of action. With the last time out going green for so long, big thing on these restarts is that control car, the 13 to Brad Davies, dictates when we go, and he's got a lot of time between when the pace car heads down and we hit the restart box. The 13's got a little bit to play with here as the field groups up at a quarter number 4. He holds on a little bit, puts the right foot down. Green flag back in the air. 5 laps shy of halfway. Davies back to the point to turn 1.
Gotta say, your flagman at your local short track may have waved that start off to the way they look coming off of turn 4, but the 05 gets sent around. Nick Ottinger, well, we didn't have many cautions for a month, but there's some chase contenders involved in this one. Ottinger's involved, Ray Alfala's involved. I see the 12 of Nick Shelton. I see the 5 of Michael Conti. Huge playoff implications here.
They certainly got their money on that one. There was a check up. The 10 machine rolled out of the throttle, got hit by Zelensky, and it initiates contact with Nick Ottinger, who spins. It's a miracle on behalf of the 46, Logan Clampett, that he was not involved in that one. And you'll take a second look at the replay here. Going down to turn 1, look for the blue number 10. There's the checkup, there's the touch, and the 05 spins. Conti right there involved. The 74 Hurst gets him. Ray Alfala goes spinning to the inside, and that mistake on pit road by the 5 of Conti, dropping 6 positions, rears its ugly head as he's involved in the incident because he restarted back a couple of rows. Here's the onboard shot with the 5 car on the replay.
I think Nick Shelton gets involved in this one as well, so there's half your playoff contenders involved in this one, and he's going to get some heavy damage to the inside. It is the 5 of Michael Conti. He actually didn't hit the wall. The 02 of Berger, I'm not sure where exactly he was going, but he was, looks like he was trying to clear that wreck through the middle of it, but nevertheless, some of these drivers are going to have some heavy damage, and here's the 12 of Shelton, the onboard, going down into corner number 1, chasing low, and this is going to happen really quickly ahead of him. He gets turned around even before the wreck happens, so Evan, it almost looks like he got off the throttle a little bit and may have got tagged in the back, and it definitely was the 6 of Ryan Luza right behind him. Just gets into him and goes for a ride. I think a little bit of rear end damage to the 12, but nothing else. He'll come down and try to get that fixed and get him back on the racetrack. But talked about Shelton not having a good run at Darlington, was not having a good run here, so it almost puts him in a must-win situation if the night continues the way it has been for Nick Shelton.
Yeah, tough break for him. Certainly looked like he got onto the brakes and got tagged by Luza, who didn't have enough time to react. And another thing about Indianapolis is there's not a ton of places to go to avoid an incident like that, especially off of a restart. Everybody's so tightly packed in there. We continue to take a look at the replays, this time on board with Matt Busa, who was on the outside. You saw Ray Alfala, who's directly on his left there, choose to go low. Clearly that was the wrong decision as that wreck slid down the hill to the inside. Busa, one of the drivers who makes it through, but that inside wall pretty much right there. Of course, the outside wall, very little room to make those evasive actions. There's the overhead shot. Busa might have gotten tapped in the back end there. So many close calls, though. The 14 ended up getting punted. So for as many drivers who got involved in that accident, there's probably twice as many who got a piece of contact somewhere, but were able to keep them straight.
Yeah, it's just a bit of a, there's no real sort of consistency to it in terms of being able to dodge incidents. It's as much, there is a skill to being able to dodge wrecks, but it is equally, as much of a, roll the dice and hope the door opens up at the right time, and equally so, you got to be able to know where to go and when to do it. So a lot of experienced people just got the answer wrong here, and we're going to get a very, very quick restart here. Be interesting to see if the drama picks up or if people are going to clean things up, as I believe the 8 of Adam Gilliland may have stayed out again, and now that he's on relatively new tires, he might just choose to stay out here.
Yeah, he all of a sudden ends up back up front. I believe what might have happened is he may not have actually caught the field for the restart, something along those lines, and then when the caution flag came out, he was told to stay behind the pace car because I don't think your race leaders have come back down. I think the 8 just gets stuck on that exchange behind the pace car. He doesn't actually lose his position, and he's not actually down a lap because he's still in front of the race-leading car on track. So he is still 32nd and still on the lead lap. He'll just have to get waved by the pace car by the time we come around to take the one to go. The lights are still on top of the pace car in the meantime. We're 1 lap shy of Midway, so no point better than now to take a look top to bottom as we cross the halfway point in tonight's race. Let's take a look at our iRacing Midway race break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks from all around the globe. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by the likes of NASCAR and many more. At lap number 49, it is Brad Davies as your race leader. A lot has changed in the last 10 laps. Colton Davis started 10th. He currently runs in the number 2 position. You can see the plus minus of positions gained or lost on the left-hand side of your screen. Corey Vincent and Bobby Zelensky both exactly where they started in 3rd and 4th position. Logan Clampett was able to get around that rack. That gives him a big gain. So does Keegan Leahy as they move up into P5 and 6. Jimmy Mullis right now runs in 7th position. Zach Novak is 8th. One of your big movers, Matt Busa, cracking the top 10, currently scored 9th. And Brian Schoenberg rounds out your top 10.
Here's Christian Challenger running in position number 11. Casey Kerwin in 12th place. Michael Guest in 13th. Joe Letteriello in 14th, up 17 spots already tonight. And Marcus Richardson up 12 to position number 15. Andrew Fayash III runs in 16th. Ryan Luza down 15 to 17th. But on the way back up through the field, Brandon Pipgrass in 18th, Phil Diaz 19th, and Chris Overland completes your top 20.
And as is tradition of these Midway race breaks, if my voice is calling your name, it's not going very well. Ryan Lowe finds himself in 21st with David Rattler in 22nd. Casey Tucker 23rd, Nick Shelton 24th, and Blake Reynolds rounding out your top 25. Chris Shearburn, Alex Bergeron, Nick Ottinger, Taylor Hurst, Michael Conti, Ray Alfala, and Adam Gilliland round out the tail in the field. And there are a lot of cars that once were very quick that now have a lot of damage down to those last handful of spots.
Only positive I can take away, no drivers out of this race yet, but a lot of them way behind and limping. As that completes your look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can visit iRacing.com to sign up today. Of course, get in that brand new Camaro ZL1. If you are signing up for a first-time subscription, you go to iRacing.com/membership, up to 40% off any kind of subscription ranging from 3 months to 2 years in length. Again, that's valid on a new membership only. More info at iRacing.com/membership. They're doing a real good job being very considerate of us tonight, Tim, for making the math nice and easy. This time by 50 laps down, 50 laps to go. Second race start of the night going to come right at halfway.
And the 13 of Brad Davies continues to lead. Started on the pole, is currently leading at lap 50. You got Colton Davis in second, and got a couple of drivers back there. I'm interested to see what Bobby Zielinski and Logan Clampitt can do. We're hanging outside the top 5 for most of the evening. Now they're inside the top 5 in 4th and 5th, and seemingly have had a magnet on them all evening long. So keep an eye on those two as the field is stacked up behind that pace car and getting ready to come to green.
The 13 is going to lead the old ZL1 front row off for the corner. Pace car going to head down. 50 laps still to go for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We saw Brad Davies get a good jump last time. Does he mix up the strategy this time? Waits a little longer. Gets up to the gears. Green flag back in the air from the Brickyard. It's not a lot of space, though, between your top cars to turn 1. Davies will defend the lead, but Zielinski trying to go outside on Davis. Not going to happen, though.
He's going to be able to hold on to that third spot, though, as they roll through corners number 1 and 2, where all the drama just picked up. They should, and they do look like they'll be able to get through here cleanly, though. Couple 3 wide moments up and down the field, but we're now 2 by 2 pretty much down this long back straightaway. Colton Davis trying to stay in line, as I believe it's the 12. I see you get way down to the inside near the grass, a little bit deeper down in the order. Actually, no, I take that back. It was Overland who I saw show the nose down there, and they're 3 wide through 3 and 4.
Yeah, 3 wide in the corner there, mid-pack. A lot of drivers going at it. Race closest to the front to the 15 machine, who slides in front, literally, of the 24 of Keegan Leahy. That was Novak, who was all kinds of squirrely off the corner. Did not want to lift, though, and he decides to stick with it. It ends up getting the position in the end of it all. Single filing things out now inside of the top 10. First fight, Casey Kerwin to the outside of the Challenger. That fight's in turn number 2. And you can take a look at it now as they come off of the corner. The 14 barely keeps the nose. That wiggle's going to cost him some time, and now he's going to have to try to hold off a charge. Here comes Michael Guest, who looks to gain another position.
This battle just outside the top 10, just in front of them. Busa and Leahy going at it for a position just inside 2 playoff contenders. Busa on the outside, Keegan Leahy on the inside. Leahy had a great pit stop on that green flag run and has put himself a little bit closer towards that top 5. Great shot there with Ray Alfala down on pit road. He's going to pull away from the pit box, damage that car, and it's going to put some pressure on him the next 2 races to try to win to get into the playoffs.
Certainly that pressure is going to be on at this point. Damage control to see what you can salvage out of a race that at one point looked very promising. One other note you made, Michael Conti really didn't get a ton of damage and all of that. Somehow, his car's not all that bad. He's up to 23rd. Of course, it's never going to be the car that it once was, but we've seen a move like this recently out of somebody like a Scott Dixon. You're in a championship fight, you get in a wreck, you think it's all bad, and good news for the 5 is the car's still running again. He won 2 weeks ago at Darlington, so none of this really matters, but the 5 is certainly going to use this opportunity to test just how much grit that team's got, as they're not going to give up on this one. Battle closer to the front, thought maybe it was going to come there. Vincent flashed the nose. He didn't get Zielinski to bite. That one will be for 3rd and 4th whenever it happens.
You've seen Bobby tonight be very, very good at defending positions. I think back to about 30 laps ago when him and Logan Clampitt were fighting wheel to wheel. Bobby was holding fast on with his line and his position up on that upper groove. So Bobby's very good at not letting people pass him easily. He screens down this back straightaway, trying to break the draft a little bit, and as well as trying to keep up with Colton Davis, who I think is trying to do the same, as Logan's going to flash the nose on a Corey Vincent. And that should put that 46 car up +1, and indeed he gets that position. Zach Novak's going to try to cycle through as well, and Corey Vincent now runs the risk of getting freight train, and Jimmy Mullis, he's going to be a part of that train, and he's going to put Vincent down 3 spots.
Yeah, the 27 is going to complete the move. You can see that 15 to Novak saw that coming, so he actually went low to block that. There is quite the fight deeper in the pack. That's Lusa diving to the outside as he tried to get around the 47 to Chris Overland. Overland way low to block, and it's one thing to drive somebody to the grass at the back straightaway, but it's another thing to drive him into the pit road wall, and the 6 gives him a shot. Lusa not very appreciative of that.
Oh, no.
And even if it's not just a fight between those two, the problem is it's checking everybody up. Now there's a ton of cars on top of each other because of it.
And they're side-by-side, little contact there down into corner number 3 as Lusa tries to hold that position on letter yellow. It lets Overland breathe a little bit, but once these guys get cycled back out, I'm sure that 6 is going to reel back in. Overland, you got Nick Shelton up here. We talked about him not having the best of playoffs so far in 2018. He's trying to roll the top on the outside of the 7 of Ryan Lowe, and I think this is almost like the bomb getting ready to go off. It's just a matter of when it does and when the patience runs out here. Yes, we still have 40 laps to go in this one, but some of these drivers want to get out of this little hornet's nest and a little bit closer towards the front of the field where it might be just a wee bit calmer.
Yeah, that's certainly the hope, and the persistence, if you will, of the 47 is paid off because it is still the 47 of Overland 15th, Lusa in 16th, and their mess kind of sticks around behind. Couple of sets of 2x2 as that 7 machine to the inside of Ryan Lowe tries to get around the 9 of Phil Diaz. That one's going to go all the way to the short chute. The 7 might have a good spot on the inside. Again, that's typically where you want to be, but just by the nature of how much you slow down in turns 3 and turns 1 and 3, I should say here, Randy, that short chute really gives those drivers at the outside an opportunity to carry speed, and outside's been a very formidable line, at least on the exits of turn 2 and 4 over the course of the night.
One of the great things about this racetrack is that when they do eventually get the package right, while you give up so much speed through turn 1 and turn 3, like you said, turn 2 and 4 in these cars, you don't really do much slowing down at all. You bit of a breathe of the throttle, slow the car down 10, maybe 15 miles an hour, maybe just drag the brake a little bit to help it rotate. But other than that, not much is going to happen as Ryan Michael Lusa is going to look down the inside of the 47 of Chris Overland. You don't have to slow down as much, don't have to change direction as much, and because of that, you carry a ton of speed off the corner. Is in this bit of a hectic train, the 36 car finds itself on into the outside wall, and third caution of the night is going to fly, and it came in that little area, Evan, where we're seeing all that drama picking up, and where they tried to wreck each other about 3 laps ago.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of like in traffic. One person cuts somebody else off, and that group is going to be there throughout the race. And well, you can see it there. The mistake actually comes courtesy of the 77. He got squeezed. Ryan Lowe is the one you got to keep an eye on. Look at the 70 car. He's going to squeeze the 77 to fast into the wall right there. And the 77 nearly drives up the wall a little bit, but he loses a lot of speed at once, and he ends up coming down the hill, and he's actually the one that inadvertently turns the 36, and the 2 drivers involved in that one really had no part of how it all started. Here's an on board with Michael Conti as he tries to get through and successfully avoids damage, but it's a tough go for Chris Yearburn. You can see the front end of that race car was torn off. His car's junked, and again, really nothing he could have done about it.
There's another guy that we looked at. If possibly the night went his way, he could have ended up in victory lane and played spoiler to one of those playoff drivers trying to get that win in your in scenario, but it's not going to happen for the 36 of Shearburn. And as you saw Michael Conti get through there, a couple of very close calls to get by on the inside. But the thing that I'm really intrigued in, yes, we've had a couple of caution flags. Are we done with the cautions, and do we go green for a little while? If we do, it's going to make them a fairly interesting strategy now with just over 40 laps to go. Everybody's going to come down onto pit road, and you're still going to have to make one more stop if this thing goes green.
And these drivers are going to be back down to pit road because of the amount of laps that we ran on that run. But as you just said, still not enough fuel going to be taken on this stop to get you to the end of the race. That discrepancy is going to be no more than just 5 or 6 laps or so. So if this were to go green, it would certainly be interesting. Let's see if any big shakeup happens under the pit lane again this time. Calls obviously going to be for tires and fuel, as it has been all night. Brad Davies has got the #1 pit stall. He hopes to defend the race lead spot, and he will do so very easily as you see him come off of pit lane. Late charge by the 11 unsuccessful Colton Davis, second off of pit road. Logan Clampett off of pit road third. Zach Novak fourth. Corey Vincent fifth. And looks like through all of that, not many changes as everybody goes for the fourth.
I think the big losers there is going to end up being Bobby Zielinski. I think drops down a couple of spots, but outside of that, everything stays about in the sort of order it was running in. One spot gained here or there, maybe two dropped here or there, but for the most part, they're in the order that they came onto pit road on as we get ready to go to that 40 laps to go sequence.
And you did see a couple of cars stay out when your race leaders dove down. Pitgrass decides to not come down to the pit lane. He will continue to stay out on track, get a bonus point. Most likely we'll see him back down pit lane before the restart. Brad Davies, though, your race leader at Indianapolis as we slowly inch towards the end of tonight's Brickyard 250. We'll take a quick opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we look back for the green flag. 40 laps to go. You're watching the playoffs of the NASCAR Antifreeze iRacing Series on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network.
Things can get rough out there.
The bumper to the back of the 24!
You think you got the brass?
I proved it last season.
That was last year. Now we've got young blood ready to take out the old. Start your engines. It's time to race.
And welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as RaceSpotTV's coverage of the NASCAR Antifreeze iRacing Series playoffs continues tonight on the iRacing Esports Network. This portion of tonight's broadcast is going to be brought to you by Herculon or Bedliner. The tough comes easy after we've had a string of caution flags and race starts. Brad Davies looks to defend the race lead on an upcoming restart. Happy that you're still with us, though. Myself, Evan Pasoko, alongside Tim Terry, Randy Cheneth, upstairs with you on the call, and Tim, of course, second race of the playoffs in the works tonight. Couple of big moments, though, tonight, including Michael Conti, who dominated the early portion of this race. A mistake on pit road. He was involved in an accident. He is locked in, though, so it's not as big a news for him as it is for somebody like Ray Alfala, who is in 28th position right now, headed into this evening in a much better spot than that. More than likely, he'll be on the outside of the cut line leaving.
Yeah, there's some drivers that are going to have to do some work following this event here this evening. And by the looks of it, Brad Davies, Colton Davis, Logan Clampett, Zach Novak, Corey Vincent, top five. Neither of those drivers in the playoffs. They're looking to win a race, which would put us with at least one driver getting into that final race at Homestead on points. So we've got some things to figure out here in these next few laps, these 40 laps to the end of the race, and could play out good for some and not so good for others.
And it's absolutely going to be the case. We look to see if those lights go out on top of the pace car, and they do. Ray Alfala just exiting pit road. He tried to stay down there as long as he could to get as much damage repairs as possible, but he will have to catch up to the back of the pack. We just recapped everything top to bottom with that look at your iRacing Midway race break, but just to look at how the restart's going to shape up this time, it is going to be a Brad Davies, Colton Davis front row, Logan Clampett, Zach Novak going to be back on row 2, Corey Vincent, Bobby Zielinski on row 3, Jimmy Mullis and Christian Challoner row 4, and Keegan Leahy, Brian Schoenberg going to be row 5, and they will round out your top 10. Now the race start due up. Again, a critical thing to keep in mind, Randy. We do not have enough fuel to go from this point on to the end. So a caution flag could come out and kind of take care of that for us. It is going to be a very interesting 39 laps to go.
I'm actually not as convinced. There was some chatter in the actual stream chat from some people involved with teams saying that in their testing they could go about 38 laps pretty much unchallenged. So if whether or not they're blowing smoke, we're going to have to find out. But I think if you save, you could potentially make it to the end from here. Let's just see, though, if it goes green, if anyone decides to take that risk.
These couple of caution laps you would think would help them, but when you consider they got fuel added to the cars closer to 41, 42 laps to go in this race, it would certainly be very hopeful for drivers to be able to stretch it to the end. That's the thing we love, though, is the only way to find out is to wait and see. So the pace car is going to head back in, and Brad Davies is going to be your control car for the upteenth time tonight. So far, so good. Let's see if that 11 Colton Davis can crack the code and make it a race down to turn number 1. The field is in the hands of the 13. 61 laps complete from Indianapolis. It's a good enough jump to clear in turn number 1. The 13 will lead in front of Colton Davis should say, in second, and then Logan DeClampett tucks in third. But don't give up on Zach Novak. He's there also to fight with the 10, Corey Vincent.
A couple of those drivers trying to roll the top on the restart to try to get back into line. There's the battle for the lead on your screen. Colton Davis took a look to the inside at corner number 2. It looked good out of that second corner, but Davies going to get that run to the outside and return to the top spot, top 4, breaking away by only about a car length between Zach Novak and the 10 of Corey Vincent as they work through the short chute into 4.
Work through the short chute, coming out of now quarter number 4, and an 11 machine now more so trying to defend against Logan DeClampett. How this night has gone for the 46 Toyota after starting 16th. He is the biggest mover inside of the top 10 on the racetrack right now, up 13 spots from where he started, and that little bit of a lackluster restart as well out of the Davies camp is started to be recovered from. He's now got about 2-3 car lengths back to Davis. So it is Davies 1, Davis 2, followed by Clampett in 3rd, Novak 4th, and Corey Vincent in P5 as they all race down the back straightaway in speeds close to 210 miles an hour.
And in 6, you have your first playoff contender in this field in Bobby Zielinski. And I have to say, if there's going to be any race where we have a good opportunity for someone to play spoiler, it might just be this one, because I have to say, Bobby has not had what looks like a race-winning car thus far tonight, even though he's done a good job working his way back up the field from where he kind of fell down to in that first stint. So maybe the first time this season in this playoff sequence that one of the non-playoff drivers ends up coming away with a win here at the Brickyard. The way this thing is panned out is worth 37 to go.
37 laps to go in this race. You see the side-by-side fight on track now. It's Schoenberg trying to keep it into the gas. It's not going to happen. A caution flag issues behind your race leaders. And we take a look at the car off it in the grass. Looks like that is the 8 of Adam Gilliland, who currently scored in 29th position. Is going to straighten it out and return to the racetrack and take a second look at your RaceSpotTV replay, and it was a poorly advised move to the inside out of the 29 camp of Brandon Pipgrass. He tried to cross the 8 over. There was space. He just made that move too late, and again, it can be so difficult at times to see what happens when that car makes the move into the corner, but it certainly looks like the 29 just didn't get low enough. Tags the 8 in the left rear quarter panel, and it is a great save from Gilliland. Goes through the grass, but keeps it out of the fence. It is enough to trigger a yellow.
Yeah, Adam Gilliland hasn't had the best of seasons. He's going to get turned around here, and man, oh man, that team just can't catch a break this year. I know they started out the season well, with the Hill boys and everybody else working together on this thing, and Adam seems like the Pied Piper per se for Aftermath Motorsports this year, and continues to plug away and work away with the race car. But man, oh man, it's been a tough sled for that Gary Mercer trucking team. But up in front, Brad Davies going to continue to lead this thing. I'm impressed with Colton Davis's run, and we didn't have a whole lot of green flag racing there, but you look within that top 5, you still have 5 drivers that are looking to play a little bit of spoiler for those playoff drivers. And if you told me that Bobby Zielinski would be the top playoff driver here with 36 to go at Indianapolis, with the way that he ran last week, Evan, or the last round, he needs a good run. He's doing it right now in position number 6. Still a long way to go.
In P6 at that. This will hopefully close the door, though, on our strategy talks because pit road is open. Everybody coming in at 35 laps to go. You will have about 2 or 3 laps, though, before we actually get to the restart, in which drivers can save. So this should be enough, I think, to fill these cars up to the end. Of course, caution flags from this point on will still leave the door open for drivers to come in and get fresh tires based on, obviously, the tires falling off. So it may not be the final time down pit road, but if it were to go green, I think you got all the fuel you need here. So let's see if the 13 machine can execute again. He has been so good in and out of pit road, not making mistakes when you have so many restarts and so many trips down to pit road. You got to figure that one of the times someone's going to get you, and that's going to be it. The race off of the pit lane is going to drop Brad Davies to 4th on exit, 5th on exit even, as he gets beat out in that drag race to the line. It is Brian Schoenberg in the 55 who goes all the way to the front on a 2-tire call. He will lead that race off of pit road.
What a call there to be able to do that. And look who else finds himself up near the front of the field. Mr. Ryan Michaeluza finds himself back on the lead lap of the repaired race car. He's going to be out in front of Brad Davies as well. So some interesting strategy calls by some. And now there's a handful of interesting names out in front of that 15 late. Well, as we're getting later and later into this race. Also, a couple people made interesting choices to stay out. Bulk of these are damaged race cars. Blake Reynolds, Brandon Pitgrass, and Alex Bergeron. Interesting to see if they stay out or if they just come down pit road here just as a trio all by themselves.
And I believe the way that shakeup on pit road happens is Schoenberg goes for 2 tires, and I think Luza as well went for right side tires only. Logan Clampett in the 46 did go for the 4-tire stop. Keegan Leahy, who was off of the pit lane in 4th position, also only went, though, with 2 tires. So it is a mixed bag in that race off of pit road that has really shaken things up towards the front. Then after Leahy, you do find Brad Davies and then Colton Davis, who were 1-2 for the longest time. We, interestingly enough, Tim, hadn't seen anybody go for the 2 at all tonight. And all of a sudden, a couple of drivers feeling gutsy.
We've had a couple of runs here, though, that we've seen 1, 2, maybe 3 laps of green flag racing. So if you're going to try it, I think this is definitely the time to try it, because if we do go green flag racing for 20 laps here, you're going to have the opportunity to come down and get tires and try to salvage what you can in the late stages. I think this is, if you're going to make the call, I think this is the best time to do it. And Brian Schoenberg was running outside the top 10 for most of this race, or hanging around that top 10 mark. Now he has an opportunity to try to better that a little bit, and even if we do get a couple of green flag laps, I think he might be in good shape.
The only way we could find out is to wait and see. Pipgrass and Bergeron, though, went by the pit lane entrance that last time, and they remain in 1st and 2nd position. Wait to see if this is going to be that call. Randy, I know you were really thinking that Adam Gilliland was going to pull this earlier, when then he just decided to come right back down to the pit lane after taking his bonus point. You might get your wish. We'll see if somebody does it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see here. Let's see what these two exactly decide to do. Alex looked like he was coming down pit road, and he ended up playing a little bit of games and just dodging past the cone at the last second. So let's see if they decide to do it this time or not. I wouldn't see the logic of Alex choosing to stay out at the last second if he wasn't trying to keep up here with the 29 and Pipgrass. But the main thing, that the difference now between the 29 and the 02 versus the 8 of Gilliland earlier, is that these two both have a pretty heavy set of damage, whereas Gilliland at the time had a mostly clean race car. So I don't think I'd like it as much from them two staying out, because I think they're just going to, if anything, either get freight trained or potentially stack the field up with 30 to go and potentially cause a big yellow.
The lights on top of the pace car should go out this time by. That will be the case. So we are going to double up for a restart. Couple of cars on 2 tires. And Brandon Pipgrass and Alex Bergeron on none. Now, again, keep in mind, we were just talking about drivers trying to stretch about 39 laps or so on fuel. So we were down pit road, only 8 or so laps to go. The tires on Bergeron are 8 laps old. They're only 7 laps old on that of Pipgrass. They're going to be the top 2 cars. But again, They make a huge difference here at Indianapolis, but something completely unrelated to that is, Tim, both of those cars I see some damage on. Got to be curious how much that's going to affect them when combined with those little bit older tires.
The 29 was involved in that most recent caution that put us under this yellow flag period with Adam Gilliland, so he'll go from the rear of the field to the front of the field, and you'll have Bergeron to the outside, and he's been involved in a couple of things, some of them not his doing this evening. Then you got Brian Schoenberg on the tire strategy, and Ryan Luza with 2 tires, and then everybody else behind. This could be a very interesting restart. You might want to hang on to your hat for this one, because I think I agree with Randy on this one, where the world's might be shaken up in front.
I'll agree with you as well. I think interesting is the right way to put it. Pipgrass, Bergeron, no tires. They are up front. 2 tires for row 2. That is going to be Brian Schoenberg restarting 3rd. Ryan Luce is starting 4th. And with the exception of Leahy, everybody else from there on back, I think, is on the 4-tire call. Again, drivers hoping that they don't have to come back down to pit road. They're looking for a green flag stretch to be able to make it on fuel to the end of this race, which comes in 32 laps from now. The pace car is in. Your 20th place starter, Brandon Pipgrass, going to lead us to the green flag for the first time tonight. And it is a very slow start for the 29. A lot of tire spin on the front row as they fight side by side to 1. You can see that 46 of Clampett looking for a way around the 55 of Schoenberg. They're so tight now in the center of 1 and 2. There's the move to the inside, but the 29 will shut the door.
See what happens. Field stacked up as they come off of 2. We somehow, I think, hold it clean. Pipgrass finds the outside wall. Logan's going to look at the bottom of the double nickel of Brian Schoenberg. I don't think he's going to quite be able to get there to make it 3 wide, but Mr. Ryan Michaeluza is, and he will get clear to the top. So they're going to be 2 by 2 through 3 and 4, and look at the speed difference to the 29. Schoenberg has to check himself up to the upper groove. That opens P2 up for Michael Connie, or excuse me, for Logan Clampett as they come off of corner number 4, and a little bit of contact. They're 3 wide for that 3rd spot down the front straightaway.
It'll be 3 wide as the 55 falls, but here's the battle for the race lead. To the inside goes Logan Clampett, is going to touch him. Pipgrass sideways, what a save as he slides back on the outside, but somehow does not reckon, and everybody behind is going to lose it.
11 of Colton Davis. Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, it's the 11 of Davis around, and there's a driver that was up front earlier battling with Brad Davies for the lead, and it's going to have some damage now. But how about those intense couple laps? Logan Clampett was to the inside of Brian Schoenberg, put Schoenberg up the track, and there's a little bit of that contact there battling for that spot, and Pipgrass went backwards. Great job to keep it off everybody else, but as you see right behind them, they're 3 and 4 wide trying to get through this mess.
Yeah, the reason, and everybody else there finding as well, is because the restart was so slow that A, the race leaders waited until the green actually came out to get going, but also B, it was just a slow restart once they did. A ton of tire spin, that it was 3-4 wide throughout the pack, and that incident's going to come. As you take a look at the replay, the 11 tried to go 3 wide to get around the slow and damaged Alex Bergeron entry, and that is where the contact comes. That'll bring out the caution. But Randy, how about that battle for the race lead? Schoenberg was getting pushed for the longest time by Clampett, and Schoenberg in turn 3 eventually had the lift where he was going to take out the leader. That's how the 46 got to the inside, and after the 29 threw a block, Clampett goes to arc back into 1, and he clips the 29, and I thought it was going to be a melee at that point. So aside from, if you question the strategy, that was fantastic driving on behalf of Brandon Pipgrass to limit that incident.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. The way that Logan got into him, I felt the exact same way when I saw that 29 car kick loose turning into turn 1. I heard the trumpets playing. I saw the 4 horsemen galloping across the sky. I thought we were about to see most of that field get killed, but well held by Brandon Pipgrass to hold on to that thing up top and not probably junk a good chunk of the field. That was very, very well held by Pipgrass, and very good, decisive, aggressive racing from Logan to get him up those couple spots to snatch away the race lead after all that pandemonium ensued.
And a look to pit road for the 29. Pipgrass is going to come down, conceding that the strategy is not going to work. the majority of your race leaders will stay out, though. It looks like the split's going to be about 15th or so in line. That second half of the pack is going to come down and get fresh tires. Anything that they feel like can benefit them, they are going to take. So split decision. Front half of the field stays out. Back half of the field comes down pit road again. At this point, any stops are for tires. Fuel no longer going to be a factor.
So that's definitely going to split a lot of things up here. But up in front, how about Logan Clampett? Clampett battled early with Bobby Zielinski, and we talked about Bobby coming back through the field, and he's going to sit in position number 8 on this restart. But man, Logan is due for a win, and with all these cautions that we've seen, could it come this evening? It's been a while since we've seen that 46 to victory lane. Keep an eye on that. Brad Davies had a really strong run this evening, and Zach Novak's been kind of hanging out in the top 10, and right now sitting in position number 3. There's a lot of drivers that are counting on some strong runs here to finish this one and to go to victory lane.
And I still can't help but to think that, you know, something else major, another ball still yet to drop in this race. We, of course, saw the accident earlier take out some of your championship drivers, a few of them involved in the aftermath of that most recent mess. Both of those big issues have come down in the short chute between turns 1 and 2. But obviously, Logan Clampett on the, again, with the strategy, ends up now leading this race in front of Brad Davies. The 13 took over the race lead and held on to it for the longest amount of time. He's going to be alongside the 46. I think we kind of get back to business up front. Novak 3rd, Luza 4th, with Brian Schoenberg rounding out your top 5. And having a tip of the cap a little bit further back, 2 drivers we've talked a bit about already, but Nick Shelton and Marcus Richardson, they started 26th and 27th respectively. They have both gained 16 positions right now, running P10 and 11.
You know, Nick Shelton needed a night like this with his situation in the playoffs to be able to rebound from his bad starting position, even in getting caught up in one of the yellows early on, to be running top 10 here. That's a pretty big accomplishment, I think, in his eyes, as the lights, I believe, are going out on the safety. Nope, not yet. I take that back. But things are going to get crazy because there's a lot of unknowns up there. Logan's been decently quick all day tonight. Brad, we know, has been one of the quicker cars on the racetrack, but when we saw that opening green flag run, Brad tended to fall off. And that's when the likes of Ryan Michaeluza and Michael Connie took over. Well, they're restarting 4th and 6th, but they've both been involved in cautions. So it's sort of everything up in the air right now. The quickest cars of the night are starting in the top 6. They're damaged. There's other people that have been in the depths of the field that are starting up front here. I think things are going to get crazy in these last 20-some-odd laps to bring it home.
And while we pace around, let's revisit what the playoff picture looked like coming into tonight. Again, Michael Conti, courtesy of the win a couple of weeks ago at Darlington. Safe. Doesn't matter what happens to him over the course of the next 3 races. He will race in Homestead for a shot at a second career championship. But below him, Ryan Luza is still having a rough go when you consider how it all started. He is in P4 now and entered tonight at the 8-point benefit above the cut line. He entered 2nd in the championship, so things are good at the moment for Ryan Luza. Behind him to points, as you look at the playoff grid, Ray Alfala came in with a 6-point advantage, 3rd in the championship standings, but he has had a rough night, involved in an incident, is damaged, and runs in P25. Then you have Keegan Leahy, who was only 3 points above the cut line, 4th and final transfer spot. He's still P7, so the night is all right for him. Nick Ottinger below him in the points, 3 points out, appears to have now wrecked out of this race. He's 31st position. He's going to keep driving with a really beat-up race car, but that is a huge loss for the 05 team. Matt Busa in the 34. They were tied coming into tonight. You look at where Busa sits right now, 19th position, mid-pack, not all that bad. Of course, we talked about how Bobby Zielinski has found himself in a position to fight for the race lead. He came into tonight 7th in points. He runs 8th. And then Nick Shelton, the one who really needed that boost. We just mentioned him running in P10, so certainly a couple of winners and a couple of losers thus far. And we will have a 26 lap to go restart, still a quarter of this race to go, so a lot, I believe, still to be undecided.
I think the 2 big names that you mentioned there at the back of the field, Nick Ottinger and Ray Alfala, have had damage in this race. And when you look at those 2 race cars, there's Ray Alfala, a lot of damage to the nose on that one. Nick Ottinger also has a ton of damage still being scored on the racetrack as well. So if you, there's the 05 on your screen right there. But the way this has gone, Evan, you get a couple of quick cautions and you get a couple of drivers that fall out of this thing, you're going to gain a couple of positions. And if we do have one spot on points, those 4 or 5 spots you gain here at Indianapolis might mean you get to race for $10,000 at Homestead.
Could certainly be a deciding 26 laps coming up. The lights out on top of the pace car, so going to be headed in this time, and it will be the first time this evening that Clamp Nation's going to be in control. The 46 now to bring us to the green flag. It is a huge window. We've mentioned it a couple times, in upwards of 5 to 6 seconds, in which that number 46 Toyota can decide to restart this race. Brad Davies has been good in clean air. Let's see if he can get back there. They'll come alongside, side by side off of turn 4. 26 laps to go from Indy, and the inside the place to be. Clampett with a good restart, and Zach Novak at a benefit. He'll fly from 3rd to 2nd, passing Brad Davies to turn 1.
These are going to be tied as well. You have the 5 and the 55. They're going to be wheel-to-wheel through turn 1 as they come off that first corner. Most of your field is side-by-side, but your race leader is getting themselves single file as Logan Clampett's going to sort himself out into the race lead. Zach Novak 2nd, Davies in 3rd with Luza and Connie rounding it out, but they are fanning out nearly 3 wide down the back straightaway. That's Vincent, Overland, and Guest that are 3 abreast.
And it's the 10 way on the inside. 54 backs out of it, though, so Guest doesn't want to be a part of it. And now it's 3 sets of 2 by 2 by 2 on each other's door, and a tad bit of contact between Keegan Leahy and Nick Shelton. A fight for 9th and 10th, and a little bit more as the 24 loses it off of the quarter. The 12 wins the battle. Vincent picks up the pieces, goes by on the outside also.
And those are 2 drivers that are in the playoff contention, looking to gain a little bit here on this run. Keegan Leahy, the 24, and there's 3 wide once again. Now it's Mullis to the inside, Guest in the middle. Overland takes that outside line, and he'll slide in right in front of those 2. Right behind Richardson and Casey Kerwin going at it and trying to pick up a couple of spots here on this restart. Brad Davies up in front, taking a look to the inside by the looks of it there on Luza. Luza trying to go to the outside, and the 2 Team Conti teammates battling side by side with Schoenberg on the inside of the 5 of Michael Conti.
And Michael Conti again looked dominant earlier in this one and lost a couple of positions onto pit road, then immediately involved in an accident. Is, I would say, pretty fortunate to have a car that is still running as good as it is. I think he'll struggle to compete with those top 5 undamaged cars. But the way that this night has gone, I think the 5 will take what he can get. He's fighting on the outside right now. The 55 of Schoenberg won that battle. The 83 of Bobby Zelensky gets on through, and the next driver fighting up the inside is going to be the 12 of Shelton, who also passes him. So the 5 getting past like he's standing still on the outside. It'll single file out your top 15 and leave the first battle on track between Busa and Mullis, and everybody there on back hasn't gotten the memo yet that we're single filing things out. Mid-pack, a ton of action.
Still side by side here. It's starting with Busa and Jimmy Mullis, and pretty much on back from then. It's wheel to wheel. I will say, though, it's potentially important with the 83 and the 12 getting around the 5 of Michael Conti. Of course, with the way the points are currently going, Conti couldn't really care. But you think about the shorter runs that Bobby Zelensky and Nick Shelton had at Darlington, them putting it, just picking up that spot on Michael Conti. They need every single point they can get going into these last handful of races before we get to Homestead. So that's potentially big for those 2, as the 2 teammates are going to duke it out a little bit. They might be teammates, but there's still 1 in a bow tie and 1 in the blue oval, as Shelton makes the move up the inside.
Makes the move to the inside of the racetrack as he tries to complete the pass. The 83, I think he's just going to let this one go. And it'll be the 12 machine, yes sir. Shelton takes P6 away. Back in damage, not hurting him all that much. Again, he got that after he checked up for an earlier wreck. It was Luza who got into the back of him, caused that damage. And you speak of the 6 of Luza, he's also going forwards as he passes Brad Davies. Tim, it appears that maybe that window of opportunity for the 13 has shut. He found himself up front, was good when he was in control, but since getting back in traffic, it has worked out another spot. Going to be lost this time to Brian Schoenberg.
And he'll go back on the attack, taking a look to the inside, down the short chute into turn 2. He's going to bring some friends along with him if he can complete the pass. Gets tight at it, 2. Zelensky into the back of the 12, and the 12's going to go around.
Locks it up. He is going to save it. A couple of close calls. The 24 Leahy flying by on the inside. Somehow not obliterating the nearly stationary number 12 Nick Shelton. Caution comes out at lap number 79. Replay will show you the contact there, and it was a very abrupt spin as the 83 nicked him in the right rear quarter panel. The 12 looked like he was about 60 degrees sideways, put it to the outside wall, and somehow locked it up. So not only is that a tip of the cap to him, but look at the onboard here, way to the inside through the grass. Michael Conti, another driver who nearly avoided that one. A lot of credit goes to Shelton, and a lot of credit goes to the cars behind him for not plowing into him.
Yeah, that is a very fortunate moment there for Nicholas Shelton. I mean, not fortunate in considering what it's going to do with his running his order position here, but in terms of just not getting drilled, like you said, the fact that pretty much the whole field comes cycling through at 180, 190 miles an hour, and no one plows into that lime green machine is, man, that's pretty lucky. That's definitely lucky indeed. Now, I will say, let me see if any of those cars that had to make a trip down through the grass maybe has any damage there. I know that you can get damage in the sim from cars, some of the cars going over the grass at high speeds like that. Not sure if that affects the stock cars as much, or maybe more of an open wheel thing, but going to be a very, very questionable, I think, for those guys that just went through the grass at a $180.
I can promise you they are very fortunate it is not the wet grass at Indianapolis that we saw damage a bunch of cars yesterday in the rain-delayed Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series race. Otherwise, I don't think there'd be much left of the cars that made that evasive action. We told you we're good on fuel, but tires are always the question. So another pit stop with 20 laps to go. The 4 tires seem to be the better decision. Clampett, I think, after going for 2, is going to flip back to that normal strategy this time, but drivers are headed down for more Goodyear rubber at lap 80.
The question is, does anybody stay out? Does anybody do some tire strategy? There's the 2 of Alfala staying out on the racetrack. I believe Reynolds may have also stayed out on the racing surface, but Logan Clampett taking at least 2 tires, and I believe they're going to opt for 4 on that number 46 car. We'll see where he shakes out here.
The race off at the pit lane, the 46 machine looking good. He was way back though into pit stall number 16, so it is going to be a long trip down to the exit, but it is safe and sound for Logan Clampett, who is the first driver in and the first driver out of the pit lane. 4 tires is going to be the decision for him. You can see the rest of the field now cycle out behind him. They rejoin the racing surface on the inside of turns 1 and 2. Zelensky off second, Novak third, Mullis fourth, and Brian Schoenberg in P5. And sounds like we did have somebody decide to go for the strategy, looking like it was Bobby Zelensky on a 2-tire call. Randy?
Yeah, so Bobby Zelensky's going to go for it here, pick himself up a couple of spots early, and this is a bit of a risk for him. With this situation in the playoffs, he has a solid potential finish, I think, locked up here as we approach deeper into this race, but I think this could go 2 ways here, Evan. I think that at this point, Bobby's not expecting this race to go green. I think he wants to get himself out ahead of some of the potential pandemonium. Of course, he would have been restarting about 6th or 7th, where some of that has started thus far tonight. So getting himself out onto that front row might be a safe way to hopefully stay ahead of the drama and the potential carnage we could see.
It looked like the 83 made a little bit of a mistake on the entry to pit road. Also overshot his box a little bit and then had to reverse to get into the area in which that car could be serviced. I don't think his 2-tire decision is a reaction to that. But for the 83 machine, certainly he does go with that call. There was a whole host of drivers, though, that again did not decide to pit at all. And as the lights go out on top of the pace car, they are locked in. And we go back to the theme of not only just having old tires, but these are some beat-up race cars. Blake Reynolds is going to lead. Been very quiet after starting P9, got involved in an incident. All of a sudden, he now will lead us to the green flag as we come to 18 laps to go. Ray Alfala is going to be on the outside of the front row in second. Logan Clampett third, Bobby Zelensky fourth. So once again, the front row going to be made up of cars that did not pit and are not in the best of condition.
I would almost have to think that Ray Alfala trying to stay out and lead a lap and get a point. We talked about those points coming down to it. It could be 1, maybe 2 drivers that get in on points of that final race at Homestead. but I also think he may not have thought that we were going to go green so quickly, maybe have one more lap of caution, but it is what it is. This is going to be a very interesting restart. If you're Logan Clampett behind, if you're Bobby Zelensky, if you're those guys on rows 3, 4, and 5, you really need to be aware, be heads up in case something does happen, that somebody gets a little off kilter in front of you. You might have to dodge something here, but we'll see how this all plays out. It's going to be a very intriguing restart with less than 20 to go.
And of course, Alfala damaged was way back in the high 20s. And the objective here, I think, is as long as he doesn't fall to 30th place, you make up a couple of positions, but certainly they are going to be slower than the cars behind them. The question is, do we survive the first couple of laps off of the restart to get separated? Look for the 46 and Logan Clampett to make a quick move to the inside, but how about that? No opportunity. Blake Reynolds checks out, and it will bring us to the green flag. Alfala now already going to be swallowed up by the clutches of the rest of the pack. We're 3 wide for third into turn 1. Zelensky on the outside, Novak to the inside, and powering up down low. Easy peasy for Logan Clampett as he goes to the race lead easily around Blake Reynolds.
The 2 gets into the 1 of Marcus Richardson, and we're going to have another quick yellow, and I think it all came off of Ray Alfala. I still don't understand the decision, the way he got on the throttle, and the way that car picked up pace. You would have thought he was in a Ford Fusion that you picked up off the showroom floor, so absolutely no speed in that number 2 car, and I hate to say it, I think Ray just caused the pilot there.
We'll see the look at the replay. The 1 machine to the inside, trying to make it 3 wide. Look at the heavy hits by those cars who smashed into the inside wall. Look for the 1 in the middle. That's where the contact comes from. It's Marcus Richardson who gets into the inside of the 2 of Alfala. I think Ray gives enough space. It's just a little misjudged by the 1 team. But again, if Alfala doesn't stay out, that incident doesn't happen. But I think it was Richardson who makes that move to the inside and then spins out. But the heavy hits that I saw off of the corner with the cars, who I think are really done in this one, and I think the hardest hit may have gone to David Rattler in the 09. He smacked the tire barrier, and Matt Busa in the 34 missed it and ended up on the inside wall off of the corner. There's a lot of cars taken out in that one, and we never really know how exactly it's going to happen, but whenever you got slow cars staying out up front, you got to expect him that something along those lines is going to happen.
And I think Busa just had a small moment under caution with the 47 of Overland as he was coming back through the field, but the Busa deal right there, he was in the grass coming off at turn 2, and Ray Alfala's to the outside, and I don't know if Busa tried to sweep up a little bit, got into the 2, and then had that hard hit on the inside, but that's a tough deal right there for Busa as he pulls up alongside the 2 of Ray Alfala under the caution flag and gets back into his position. But that's you talk about the hard hits. The 8 car of Adam Gilliland had a hard hit, David Rattler had a hard hit, but I think the biggest hit in all that was Matt Busa when he came off of turn 2 and got into Ray and then back into the inside wall. There's a championship contender that we thought this evening would be one to contend for the win, and I don't think he's going to be able to do so. And right on board here with the 34 of Busa. As he goes through turn number 1, he's going to get the grass here. He sees what happens in front of him. He's going to go to the inside, and he's going to clip the grass a little bit here. He's through it at this point. Gets into the grass, and up the racetrack he goes, and had a little bit of time to save it, Evan, but just couldn't get off the 2 of Ray Alfala off the 2.
You saw the big hit with Rattler there in the back end. Looks like he bounced up and also collected Adam Gilliland, but he was, in the case of Busa, oh so close to being able to make it by that, but got loose in the grass, had to walk it up the hill. Alfala was still there, and that is where, unfortunately, it all comes crashing down. You did see Busa dive to the pit lane. Alfala also down pit road, so the likes of Busa, Alfala, Ottinger, some of your championship playoff drivers who have had a rough go at it here tonight at Indianapolis. And if I had to look between Darlington and Indy at a racetrack that would have a lot of wrecks, and that might be that, that one mulligan race as far as, you see a championship and a playoff driver get involved in an incident, I probably would have pegged Darlington over Indy. In fact, I'll probably pick that bet any single time. However, quite the opposite. Again, caution-free 2 weeks ago. We had a great start this evening, but since then, it has been a lot of stop and start and has very quickly become a race of attrition.
Yeah, I mean, it really has, and a couple times we've just seen people in car that honestly shouldn't be at the front of the field stay out and say, you know what, I want to lead a lap, and end up causing some pandemonium. The first time it wasn't too bad, and there was a bit of excitement, but I would say that the cars that ended up in the wall as a result of that weren't too happy. I wouldn't say it was too exciting. And same thing here. See, those two cars decide to do that, especially Ray, because Ray's experienced enough. He should know that that's never going to work. All he's going to do is, at best, get lucky and cause a wreck behind him, and he'll be able to stay in the top two. I said the same thing when Adam Gilliland did it in the beginning of the year at Charlotte, and I'll say the same thing again here when Ray did it here. It's just flat out a dumb decision that everyone in this series should be experienced enough will never work if there's any more than one lap on the pylon. And with over 10 to go, that's a move no one should ever make in any situation in this series ever.
Final portion of tonight's broadcast brought to you by Blue Def Diesel Exhaust Fluid, the #1 selling DEF in America. Lights out on top of the pace car. We do it again. And Logan Clampett in a familiar position. He'll once again have an opportunity to control this restart. The slow cars, the damaged cars, no longer holding your leaders back, and gives an opportunity to the likes of Novak, Zelensky, Mullis to make something happen here. Certainly, Bobby Zelensky needs to close this race out inside of the final 14 laps and can make huge gains after a rough start to his playoff tenure at Darlington 2 weeks ago.
You've got a couple of drivers that really need to close this deal, Evan. Obviously, Bobby Zelensky is probably the biggest one that needs the momentum heading into these next 2 weeks of the season, but Keegan Leahy slid through the grass there. Michael Conti had a little bit of damage, albeit he's won that race to lock himself into Homestead. Ryan Luza has been back and forth all night like a yo-yo up to position number 7. There's a few drivers here in the top 10 that could really need it to close the deal, and then there's a couple of drivers out back that need to get themselves back towards the front of the field in this playoff picture. So there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to sort through in these final 14 laps of competition.
46 going to be in control for what could be the final time tonight. We'll put 86 laps behind us and take a restart with 14 laps to go. You've not seen somebody other than your control car make a pass for the race lead on a restart tonight. We'll see if somebody changes that or if it is going to be all Logan Clampett to turn 1. Puts the right foot down and the inside again, the place to be. 2 poor restarts in a row for Novak. The 15 will lose second spot. It's Zelensky on the inside to second. He'll chase Clampett to turn 1, but an inside move for the 83 puts him to spot, but a huge run. Zach Novak makes up for all of it. He flies to the inside down to fight for second.
What a move from Novak to get down there. Zelensky's going to have to fight for it as we're back to yellow as they're wrecking off a 2.
66, Blake Reynolds around on the apron. The caution is out, and I think Novak might have been in front at the moment of yellow. We'll look back on that in a moment, but first, to look at the replay. There's where it all starts with the 11 car of Colton Davis. Outside line, gets sideways, comes down, tags Taylor Hurst, and it was on from there. We saw Reynolds who spun to the inside. It was just one of 3 cars, but it's right there, just as simple as Colton Davis losing the handle and collecting those around him.
And there's a tale of 2 races. Colton Davis earlier in this race up in front, battling for the lead position, putting some pressure on the leaders, and the last 20 laps or so really hasn't gone his way. And we're under caution once again as the 46 of Clampett. He's looked good these last 20 laps or so out in front, and this could be Clampett's race to lose. There's a driver that was just outside of that playoff cutoff going in to these 4 races to decide who's going to race to it at Homestead. And I think Logan was a little down on himself, I think, Evan, the couple of weeks following that cutoff race, but no better way to turn it around than to put it in victory lane.
And these yellows are very much going to help his case, because you talk about a 14 lap to go restart. Well, now 4 of those laps are going to be run under caution to flying conditions, where obviously nobody could even make a move on you. We come to pit road this time, going to be open for drivers if they want to take tires. Looks like the 46 stays out, though, and as a very spread out field comes into turn 4, looks like a majority of the cars up front deciding to make the track position call. But a win there for the 15 is that it does look like scoring is going to keep Zach Novak in P2, and that could very well be critical Coming down to how this race ends, he was caught sleeping on the restart. Zelensky moved through, took away P2, but because the entry was so low to turn 1, Zelensky didn't get a good run off of the corner, and you can see the 15 just make up for that mistake in a matter of feet. Flew to the inside, may not have even completed the pass. They were nose to nose in 2, but at the moment of yellow, the 15 had gotten back in front of Zelensky. That is how scoring is determined at the moment of caution, so nothing ends up changing. It'll be Clampett 1, Novak 2, and Zelensky 3, but the Tom will get a chance to restart again.
Yeah, I think Bobby's going to be kicking himself a little bit that he let Zach pick up that second spot. But then again, with the restart happening, Bobby managed to time the restart really, really well. So maybe he may not be too irritated after all. Question's got to be, though, is that do we get another caution after this? Because if we do, it's going to be very, very tight into that window of it just killing the race right there and giving the win to whoever is in front when that happens.
Damage done on to Machina. David Rattler, you see him out there. He's 1 lap down in 31st position, looking to get waved by the pace car by the time he gets set for restart. That modified looking entry, you can see him on the screen right there. He and Adam Gilliland, the only drivers, scored a lap down, and it looks like the 8 going to have an opportunity to rejoin the lead lap. I think Gilliland gets the lucky dog in all of this. If there is one positive to take away from this one is new drivers are retired. Every single driver who started in this 32 car field is still in this race. But Tim, I gotta go back to that point just after lap 40 when we had the discussion coming to the restart. We had 1 yellow, and I think you were a little bit more optimistic than me. I said I didn't think we were going to get another long green flag stretch, and after going hundreds of miles for the last couple of weeks combined without a yellow, it has really been a lot of stop and start since that point. And with a 10 lap to go or so restart due up, I don't see any reason, if I'm Logan Clampett, to expect to have to run 8 or so uninterrupted laps. I think this is going to come down to executing on 1 or 2 more good restarts.
Yeah, I was a little more optimistic than you guys were, but I think you're right. Logan Clampett is definitely going to have to hit this restart right, and then probably going to have to hit 1 more restart right at the end of it, or at least, as you mentioned, go to that, whatever it is, 95, 96 mark where we don't turn back, and if we do get a caution, the race is over. So yes, this restart is going to be very key, and these next 3 or 4 laps are going to be fairly key, whether it's going to a caution, then going back to a restart, or getting to that point of no return where we would finish the race under the caution flag. But Logan Clampett up in front, Novak in second, and there's been a few of these cautions that have happened up in front. We did see some drivers, as Randy alluded to earlier, stay out on the racetrack and make some moves that weren't necessarily the smartest moves of their racing careers, but then we've seen some at the back of the field, guys running for 30th or so, and that bringing out the yellow flag. So we saw a lot of respect in the race at Darlington, caution free in that one, caution free to the end, long green flag run in the round before that as well. But it looks like what we had for those 2 rounds, Evans, kind of coming back and biting us here, as everybody's got that mentality that they've got to go to the front of the field to try to win this at all costs.
It's certainly a counterproductive, strategy or intent, but it's what every driver has. You get a couple of these yellows, it's very easy to sit back and say, okay, we'll take it easy, don't wreck. The problem is, if you're racing, you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to have green flag runs to make moves. If we're just going to keep wrecking it, I need to get the spots now in that limited time I have between the restart when everybody is grouped together nice and close. And of course, when a caution flag would have come out, and when you have drivers trying to get spots right off of the restart very aggressively, that's how you get the yellows, and it is a vicious cycle that we have seen take part in the middle portion of this race. The lights do go out on top of the iRacing.com pace car. The magic number is going to be 9. 9 laps to go for a restart. The next time by, Tim alluded to that point of no return. If we get to 4 laps to go or less, this race will not restart. There is no overtime in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing series, so a yellow from that point or later would mean that we just pace to conclusion in tonight's Brickyard 250. So you're looking at a 5-lap green flag run to get to that point, or a yellow and probably a restart rated about at that point. That would certainly be the last one on the evening.
Yeah, and right now Logan could really I think, hoping to get to that point, if for no other reason, just to alleviate the stress. But Really, I don't know if anyone has anything for this 46 car right now. The 15 and the 83, they've been decently quick, but they've not been, I think, race-winning cars. They've not had that speed. I think the only car that might have anything for Logan would maybe be Brad Davies or Ryan Michael Luza, but they have to come from 6th or 7th, and I don't think they have the speed anymore with some of the incidents they've been caught up in. Right now, the 46, I think, is the favorite.
We'll see if Clampett is going to be able to close this one out. The driver that missed the cut line into the championship 8 by just 1 position, and comes into tonight 10th in the overall championship standings behind Christian Challenger. Is going to look for the win here from Indianapolis. Pace car headed back down. Logan Clampett's been so good a couple of times. Let's also keep it on Zelensky in the fight for second. A green flag in the air. It is enough for Clampett to lead to turn 1, but Zach Novak, big improvement. This time he'll defend second into the corner.
Zelensky will pull up behind and maintain position number 3. Behind them will be the battle with Schoenberg. He'll clear it, and there will be Brad Davies on the outside of Jimmy Mullis. Mullis flexing his muscle here late as they battle side by side for what is position number 5 off of the corner. Davies gets that great run in front of them. Brian Schoenberg is coming to party. The double nickel looks to the inside of Zelensky.
4 wide back in the pack. Look at that fight. The 14 and the 24 split through a fight between Conti and Challenger, and somehow it survives now 3 wide as the 7 Ryan Lowe comes up the inside of the racetrack. All of this going on with top 10 cars. Incredible stuff off of the quarter, but the battle for the race lead may be on in front of them. Zach Novak is there on the bumper. Clampett. The challenge is going to come with 8 laps to go in this race. He doesn't yet make a move, though, in turn 2.
Thought he may have had it locked up. I might have been wrong, as Novak's going to try to get the run coming off this second corner. Down the long back straightaway, Novak showing half a nose. I don't think he's going to go for it yet. Starts to pull out, but no, he's just harassing the mirror, trying to rattle Logan Clampett just a little bit as they run through corners number 3 and 4.
15 a little bit lower. He gets the hook off the exit at quarter number 3 to the bumper, but he's got very little space to work with into turn 4. You need to get the run off of one of these corners. Either out of 2 or out of 4 is where you need that run. Use the straightaway to your advantage. 1 less lap to go for the 15 machine as he was unable to make a move on lap number 93. Still a car length off. If he sits on him, don't count out Brian Schoenberg. The 55 Chevrolet is right there also in 3rd.
And he's never been to victory lane in this series, and right now reeling in those top 2 as they continue to battle for that top spot. And oh, by the way, Brad Davies hanging on in position at number 4. They're pulled away from Bobby Zelensky. Schoenberg gets a great run down into corner number 3 as the 15 of Novak tries to maintain that spot. And the best thing for Logan Clampett would be for Schoenberg to get to the back bumper of Zach Novak in battle. He might be able to pull away a little bit.
He does stretch it out just a little bit. That gap now 1.5 car lengths, but it's the longest it's been since the race start. Novak still 2nd, Schoenberg 3rd, and your pollster Brad Davies hangs out in the rear about a half a second off. Scored right now in P4. That was 6 laps to go that time by, and the 15 still there, but he needs to put it together. The 46 continues to be better on the exit of the critical corners 2 and 4, and he stretches it out a little bit more this time down the back straightaway.
The clean air, I think, is helping Logan just a little bit. Keep that car pinned down to the inside. Novak is constantly a little bit wide and not quite getting his groove just right, especially on the exit of the important corners of turn 2 and turn 4. This time, Novak does a slightly better job, but he's given up a few car lengths as the 83 and Bobby Zelensky in the back gets bullied a little bit. He's starting to fall. 3, 4, 5, 6 spots lost by the 83.
As Zelensky got hit, the 27 made contact with him. You can see how slow Zelensky was. There's a replay of the great save that he made at a turn 4. Look for the contact on this second look right there into turn 4. They just get together. The 27 didn't want to commit to the inside with the threat of Chris Overland. They avoided incident though, and we stay green. But your race leaders, albeit 5 of them in a line, now have a couple of car lengths in between each of them. That pocket of air seems to not be able to be penetrated by Novak as he tries to find a little bit extra, this time by that critical point we had talked about. 4 laps left to go, and the point of no return from Indianapolis.
Novak grazed the wall off turn 2 that last time by, and as this run continues to get a little bit closer to the end, Logan Clampett gets a little bit better, but that time the 15 got a great run down the front straightaway. The 55 is Schoenberg falling back off the pace of these two a little bit, and Ryan Luza is a part of the party as well. He sucked up to the back bumper of Brad Davies. Luza trying to play spoiler. I don't know if he can get up to Logan Clampett. Clampett continues to look better. The longer that we go on this run, the battle's going to be for third. Davies to the outside.
Davies wanted to look low. Schoenberg shut the door, so he'll try the outside line. It is not going to work, and it almost works counterproductive. The 6 nearly snuck onto his inside. This 3-way fight for third between Schoenberg, Davies, and Luza is going to give Novak the breathing room to not be concerned about the cars behind him. There's a dive to the inside, and there's another one. 3 wide for third at 3 laps to go at Indy, but the 6 backs out of it. The winner in that's going to be Brad Davies. The 6 of Luza is going to go to 4th, and Schoenberg loses out both positions as he slips to P5.
It's a good call there by the 6th Ryan Michael Luza to lift out of the throttle, because it's going to he will have to wait longer to get ahead of Brad Davies, but I think he'll lose less time by waiting instead of just forcing it 3 wide. He's going to show the nose again. The 46 of Clampett, by the way, a little loose off of turn 2. That might help out Zach Novak, but the fight for third is still hot. Ryan Michael Luza going to show the nose through turn 3, and he's going to get there. Now gets himself P3. Can he reel in the 15 of Novak and the 46 of Clampett in 2 laps? We're about to find out.
That battle for the race lead still ongoing, but the gap now at nearly 0.3 seconds, the biggest it's been since we took 9 laps to go in this race, and a critical restart. Popsicle 6 in the air, 2 laps to go from Speedway, Indiana. Novak is still there, the smallest of bobbles out of the Logan Clampett camp is going to open the door wide open for the 15, but if that's not going to be the case, he needs a little bit extra. Still can't get to him, sideways at a 2 as Novak digs on exit.
And keep an eye behind. Ryan Luza is closing in. Question is, can he get there? He might be able to get there, but can he make the pass? Schoenberg for 4 to the inside of Davies. That 6 car is coming. If he can win, he punches his ticket to Homestead. If not, it's going to be a good point night, which could get himself into that final race.
Especially when you consider the couple of drivers in the playoffs who have had bad nights here at Indianapolis. But the white flag is in the air. 1 lap to go from the Brickyard. Logan Clampett's gap sits at 3 car lengths. The 15 again makes up a little bit of time in 1, but the challenge has been right here. Turn 2 is where you need that speed to carry onto the straightaway. And for the upteenth time, he's good, but not good enough to close that door. Final time now on the back straightaway. Logan Clampett just needs to make sure he doesn't miss turn 3 with Novak breathing down his neck. The battle for the race lead from Indy is going to come all the way to the final quarter, and he just missed out on a playoff spot. Logan Clampett looks like he'll weather the pressure. He'll come off of the final quarter for his first win in 2018. Logan Clampett a winner in an NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series. It comes at the Brickyard.
What an amazing run by the 46 car of Logan Clampett. I think he got a little bit of good luck on his side. Some of those good cars, the quickest cars of the night, got themselves into trouble, but Logan took the opportunity and ran away with it. He was absolutely dominant in that last 40 laps.
The 15 pulls alongside to congratulate him. Ryan Luza, who ran a final lap, Tim Terry, 0.2 of a second faster than both of the cars in front of him, also offers his congratulations. Logan Clampett takes advantage of some circumstances, and Zach Novak gave him everything he could handle. That was a fantastic 9-lap run to the end to watch as those two duked it out. The 46, not a single mistake, didn't give the 15 the opportunity.
If this was a 260-mile race or a 104-lap race, I think the outcome would have been a little bit different, because I think Ryan Luza probably would have been driving to victory lane, but just ran at a time, and the strategy played out to the way Logan Clampett wanted it. The Chaos crew, I'm sure, is happy because the Richmond Raceway number 46 is going to come down here and light it up on the Yard of Bricks. A winner at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And oh, by the way, he's not a playoff driver, so we're going to have at least one get in on points going to Homestead.
And whoever that is, they're going to owe Logan DeClampett a big thanks come the end of the season. He celebrates on the front straightaway as your winner tonight from Indianapolis. Should also note a big championship implication late in this race. As you saw the race leaders come to the start-finish line, there was a lot of smoke in the background. That was Philip Diaz in P11. Got into an incident in turn 4. He pushed up, collected Christian Challenger. They wrecked off of the quarter. And we talked about playoff drivers benefiting from the misfortunes of their competitors. Well, Bobby Zelensky was set for a great result in this race. He was involved in that wreck, and it cost him several positions in the race to the start-finish line. We recap it all. We take a look top to bottom at your RaceSpotTV full race results. Logan DeClampett is your race winner tonight from Indianapolis. Final margin 0.18 seconds on top of Zach Novak. Ryan Luza comes home third. Your Polster Brad Davies ends up fourth, and Brian Schoenberg another top 5. We will be trackside with all of those drivers just momentarily. Michael Gast ends up P6 in this one. Jimmy Mullis with a 7th place result. Ryan Lowe gains 20 spots to snag 8th. 9th place is Casey Kerwin, and Chris Overland rounds out your top 10.
Very intriguing second page here. There's a lot of playoff contenders here and some on the bottom half of the page, led by Matt Busa, though, in position number 11, considering that hit off turn 2. Very fortunate to get back here to position number 11. Marcus Richardson, 12th. Casey Tucker, 13th. Andrew Fash, the 3rd. 14th. Christian Challenger in position number 15. Michael Conti in 16th. Taylor Hirsch, 17th. Alex Bergeron, 18th. Keegan Leahy at the bottom of this page in 19th. And Ray Alfala persevering all night long after a couple of tough wrecks. Going to come home in 20th. That could be big in the points picture.
And the playoff names do not stop. Blake Reynolds in 21st, Chris Shearburn in 22nd, Nicholas Shelton ends up 23rd, Bobby Zelensky, you heard Evan talk about on the final lap losing a bunch of spots. He was P13. He comes home P24 in that incident in the final corner. Phil Diaz in 25th, Brandon Pipgras 26th, Nick Ottinger 27th, Adam Gilliland 28th, Colton Davis 29th with David Rattler, Joe Letteriello, and Corey Vincent rounding out the 32-car field tonight.
A lot of shakeup tonight from Indianapolis. What we do not have is another driver headed to Homestead, but what we do have is a very different playoff picture look headed to the next race in 2 weeks' time at Atlanta. What we'll do is take an opportunity to step aside. When we come back, we'll take a look at the point shuffle. We'll talk with your top finishers, and we'll get you set for round number 16. You're watching the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series on the iRacing Esports Network. Post-race from Indianapolis when we return.
And that's how restrictor plates reduce air intake. Moving on, drag is one of your biggest competitors.
It slows you down, so make sure your car is streamlined.
And don't forget to get an edge with drafting.
Take advantage of the high-pressure air between your car and the one in front. Then you can slingshot it.
You guys taking notes?
At the track, in the classroom, and online. Get special ticket offers for kids at NASCAR.com/KidsTix today.
And welcome back live to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. RaceSpotTV's coverage of the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series continues tonight on the iRacing Esports Network. Another race down. We're now halfway through the opening round of the playoffs as we welcome you in to tonight's post-race coverage. A fantastic run to the end is capped off by the first win on 2018 for Logan Clampett. Finally has got the job done. We're trackside with the driver of the number 46 now. Logan, congratulations on the win. A lot of redemption, I think, in tonight's win.
Yeah, for sure. It's been way too long since my first win, and I'm just so happy the luck finally turned around into the right direction. But first off, obviously today's 9/11, so I'd like to pay respect to the people who sacrificed their lives to save lives during the terrorist attack on this day. But yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm so glad I got this.
We'll talk about what this means, in the grand scheme of things in just a moment, but after the way that this race went, you talked about a little bit of luck. You guys have certainly been on the wrong end of that many a time, so to find yourself in a position to race for this, I know had to have felt good, but it's not like we wrecked on the last lap and all of a sudden you find yourself in a race lead. You had to earn that one, and Zach was all over that bumper for the entirety of that 9-lap run to the end. Just talk us through what that was like.
Yeah, we were all chatting with each other. He was telling me to calm down. JD was telling me to calm down. My spotter, he said, stay calm. They're catching us, and calmed down a little bit and started pulling away and brought it home. It means a lot.
Obviously, you started tonight kind of in the thick of things, 16th on the grid. You did have about top 10 speed in the warm-up session before we got going, but, we take the green flag 100 laps ago. You're mid-pack. Did you think you were going to be going to victory lane in this? What was the point tonight that really, flipped around? Where did you find yourself at a spot where you thought, okay, maybe we can actually do this thing?
Well, at the start of the race, I thought we didn't have a single chance to win this race, maybe a top 10 at best, but in the closing stages there, I know a few of those really fast guys got taken out early in the race, mid-race. So we were just in the perfect position when the guys stayed out and stuff, made the right moves and everything, and when it got later towards the race, and I was like, hey, I might have a chance to win it, and what do you know?
There's a lot of tracks we go to on the calendar, but Indianapolis always a fun track, not only because of obviously the lore that this place has, being one of the most well-recognized circuits in the world, but of course it's also so very difficult to get a win here. It's a track that we come to, and a lot of drivers look at it and say, I just want to survive this one, just get through it. It takes a lot of finesse to get around. Does it mean anything more to be able to finally break through and get the job done at Indianapolis and in the playoffs when you've got all those top teams cranked it up to 100%?
It feels good to win at Indy. I've never usually been great at Indy, but I guess we were in just the right position everywhere, so it really means a lot. I was really shaking there the last few laps for sure. I then had this big smile coming off of turn 4, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
Obviously unable to fight for the championship. You just missed out on that one, but you outrun a lot of the playoff drivers tonight. I think you prove a point. You've got a couple more opportunities to do the same thing that you did here tonight going forward. Atlanta, Dover, Homestead still to come. What are you looking for the rest of the season?
Just hopefully getting decent finishes, having some fun since we're no longer in the playoffs. I wish we were, or not no longer. We aren't in the playoffs. Wish we were though. Because this obviously would have been a ticket to Homestead. But yeah, we're just going to have some fun the rest of the season. And then this was obviously my first race with Lockdown Racing. So thank you to them, Taylor for working on the setup, Zach Novak for kind of helping me out, JD Laird on the spotter stand for me, and then my sponsors, Richmond Raceway, Chaos Crew, Proline Trailers, Sim Seats, JDR Graphics for the beautiful scheme, iRacing for putting on all this, Peak, and that's about it.
I know you got some celebrating to do, so we'll let you get out of here, Logan. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on the win, and we'll see if you got any more of that up your sleeves. We'll catch you in 2 weeks' time.
Thank you, Evan.
The race winner tonight for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Logan Clampett gets the job done. First win for that team on 2018. And he mentioned Zach Novak, the 15, was a part of that battle all the way down to the final seconds. Tim Terry, trackside, with tonight's second-place finisher.
Zach Novak, you have to be happy with second place, but what did you need a little bit more of in those last 8 laps to try to take away the win from the 46 of Clampett?
Just raw speed, driver talent, I guess. You know, like Clampett mentioned, he was kind of messing up there, and I told him just to chill out. And once he chilled out and started getting in the rhythm, I couldn't touch him. He was way too fast. I just kind of realized that after a while, set in for second, and I'm just really glad that we could bring home a 1-2 for LDR. This is the second time we've done this season, and third win this season, so really happy of all the effort that everybody's put in. It's paying off, and really happy for Clamp as well to get that first win this season, and first win with us in his first start. That's awesome.
We went caution-free at Darlington. The first 40 laps or so here were caution-free, and then we got into the rhythm of a few laps of green and then a caution, a few laps of green and then a caution. After all that green flag racing that we had in this series, was it difficult to try to get back into a rhythm and try to get some green flag laps in when the caution flags kept coming out in between?
Yeah, a little bit. It helped a lot, actually. The car, for me at least, got way better after that first caution. We got some proper adjustments in it. And Logan Sheets did a hell of a job getting that exit fixed up for me. I was struggling off the corner, and got the exit fixed up, and I felt like we were probably top 3 speed after that. And I knew once some cautions started coming out and some front runners started getting wrecked, that we'd have a shot at the win, and we definitely did. I just didn't really have a little bit more I needed to win that thing, but I'm not really mad about second. I don't think anybody can be.
Now, I know it's not the season that you have wanted per se, but 13th in points following this evening's racing action. What are the goals going forward here in these next 3 races?
You know, just try to finish as high as we can in the points and have a lot of fun. You know, the main goal is just to have fun when you're doing this, and results are second. In some people's eyes at least, and I just want to have fun, enjoy my time, and the results will come. So you saw that tonight. We just had fun, and didn't really stress too much about it. At least I didn't. And I know Clamp was really stressed out there those last few laps, but I just played my cards, and Logan Sheets called great strategy up on the box, and didn't really worry about it too much. Brought it home second.
Beautiful looking race car. Who's on this race car that helps you get to the racetrack every week?
Yeah, we switched up the look a little bit for this week and the rest of the season. Big thanks to JDR Graphics for this awesome looking car. I'm really glad to represent JD. He's one of the best graphics artists to, I think, ever be on iRacing. So I'm really glad to represent him, and also really glad to represent SimSpeedShop.com. They've been with me the whole season, will be the rest of the season, and maybe later on in the next year. We'll see. We'll have to see about that. But big thanks to them for supporting me. If you need any sim appliances, just go to them. They're one of the best out there. So thanks to them. Thanks to you guys for the broadcast. Thanks to iRacing for putting this on. Thanks to everybody.
And that's Zach Novak that comes home with a second-place effort here this evening from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I believe Randy has caught up with our third-place finisher, was charging hard at the end, the 6 of Ryan Luza.
Yep, I'm stood by with that third-place finisher tonight. And Ryan, talk about an up-and-down night for you. You started up there in the top 2, got caught up in an incident about Midway, fell way down the order, and you managed to rebound to finish P3. You have any idea that this was even going to be remotely possible?
No, not really. It was extremely lucky. I ended up speeding on pit road exit, which is by far the worst thing you can do, because not only do you have to come back down pit road, but you also have to sit there for 15 seconds. So it's like I made 2 stops. Luckily, I got a caution, or I probably would have finished 32nd. And a lot of the cars up front kind of wrecked. There was just chaos going on. Luckily, being back there, I wasn't really dealing with it at the time. Made a 2-tire call, got up to the top 5, and we pretty much stayed there. I think I had one pit stop towards the end. I finally got on the same tires as everybody. And I lost like 4 or 5 spots on pit road. I didn't overshoot. Nothing happened. I think it was just a really slow stop. If it wasn't for that, I think we had a really good chance at getting those guys. I just didn't have enough time, and starting back in like 7th or 8th, it just took too long to get up to 3rd. But Conti was definitely better. We probably had the 2nd or 3rd best car in the field, so still a really good car. We had to figure out a little bit more speed going into Atlanta, but getting, I think, 2/3 in a row now, we're looking really good. Leading some laps, having our wins from the regular season. So at this point, it's kind of looking to trying to point my way in. That's probably the safest thing to do, unless we're just really, really fast. So really good execution so far. Just got to make it to Homestead.
I was actually going to bring that up about potentially getting way in, because right now I think even without a win, you'd be pretty solid, because, of course, you had a very strong finish at Darlington just a couple of weeks ago, and then tonight, look at a lot of your contenders who are in the playoff sequence. You have Matt Busa is the best, finishing at 11th, and huge amount of them have terrible nights tonight. Keegan Leahy's 19th, Ray's in 20th. Shelton's in 23rd, Bobby's in 24th, Nick Andre. I think you're the only one in the top 10, and you and Boots are the only 2 in the top 20. So that has to put you in as a huge, huge favorite to, at the very least, make it to Homestead no matter what right now.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at the points here. I have 26 points on the cutoff, which is really huge. I think we're going to be missing some cars next race, so we might not even have over 30. So we're looking at realistically just 2 top 10s, and I think we'd be safe, but obviously that's not the goal. Just go in, get our top 5s, and just do what we have to do. And just pull ourselves in. We gotta find a little bit for Homestead, though. We can't go into Homestead how we're running right now.
Well, good luck to you on finding that pace, Ryan, and well done on the night tonight on rebounding after that early penalty. Before we let you go, who gets it done for you, that group at Phenom Racing Team and for the 6?
Yeah, thanks to everybody at Phenom. Big thanks to Chris Shearburn and Keegan Leahy once again, every week, putting in a lot of effort. This is one of my worst tracks. I'm never confident coming here, so just coming away with the top 5, even top 10, I was going to be happy with. Especially after the way tonight went, I'm really happy with how we finished. So thanks to all those guys. Thanks to Fast Track Sims for being on board for the chase. Hopefully we put them in Homestead.
There was your 3rd place finisher of the night, Ryan Michaeluza. I think very happy to rebound the way he did. Next in line, though, I think we have ourselves a little bit of a throwback interview. Tim Terry has stood by with Brad Davies.
Yeah, Brad Davies going to come home with position number 4 here this evening, and Brad started up front, led the field back to green after that long green flag run, and then the wheels kind of came off the race in the second half. But let's talk about this 13 car. You have to be happy with the top 5 finish.
Yeah, this is the first one of the season, so I'm pretty excited about that. It's been a while since I've been in the top 5. Car was, pretty good most of the race. I struggled a little bit on after about lap 3, anywhere from lap 3 to 10 or so. The car was really tight and wasn't sure what to do to, fix that on the pit stops. But the first 2 laps, I didn't really have any issues with anybody. Actually, I felt like I was probably the fastest car, or one of the fastest cars on fresh tires. And then again after about 15 laps, but it's just that 10-lap window I was struggling with most of the race.
Let's talk about battling at the end with Brian Schoenberg. You guys went back and forth a couple of times in the closing laps.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I want to thank Brian for running me clean there at the end. We got to run side by side and swap positions there a few times in the last few laps. So that's kind of what it's all about, just going out there and racing for position and staying clean and having a good time.
Looking at the point situation, looks like unofficially 16th place going in to these final few races. What are your goals here going forward to try to seal off this season?
Well, just continue to stay clean and get some good top 10 finishes, top 5 too, if we can muster some more. We got some momentum going into the next, I don't know, what do we have, 3 or 4 races left this year. So I want to keep the momentum going and stay in front of that. I believe this year 20th is the cutoff to make it back into the series next year. So I want to stay ahead of that, 20th place in points. That's going to be my goal for the remainder of the year.
Looking at the schedule, Atlanta, Dover, and I believe the last round in Homestead, is there one of those 3 tracks that you look at that says, hey, that might be the track we can put this 13 back into victory lane in?
Yeah, probably Atlanta. That's always been a favorite track of mine. Not necessarily because I'm really good at it, but just because I enjoy driving it. There's a lot of tire fall off there, and you can run in a lot of different grooves. You can run up next to the wall in 1 and 2. You can run on the bottom. You can run in the middle in 3 and 4. I mean, there's a lot of places, a lot of lines to run. So it's I'm kind of looking forward to it just for that good side-by-side racing that we're probably going to see in the next couple weeks.
We've seen these colors around for a long while. Who else? You get to the racetrack every single week. Who's helping you out on the setups every week?
Well, most of the time I'm working by myself. Every once in a while I get help from Michael Conti and Matt Busa and Brian Schoberg and those guys. But for the most part, I kind of do my own thing. And John Prather and John Gorlinski and Derek Wood helped me on the box, and all 3 of them were actually there today, so that was really helpful.
There you go. Great to see Brad Davies back up here in the top 5, finishing in position number 4 here this evening. And to close off our top 5, I believe Randy has caught up with another driver that came oh so close to making a run to the win. How about the double nickel of Brian Schoenberg over with Randy?
Yep, we got Brian Schoenberg here on tap. And Brian, you spent a lot more time in the mid-pack than most of the people we interviewed tonight. And, of course, Logan was the only other one that spent pretty much nearly as much as you did. How crazy was that mid-pack tonight here at the Brickyard? It seemed pretty intense from up here in the booth.
Oh, man, it was terrible to be in the middle of the pack. I started 13th, which is kind of like decent track position to start that race. And then pretty much crashed on the first lap of the race. I grabbed the curb in turn 4 and slid pretty bad and went from like 13th to 21st, basically giving up about 10 spots at the very start of the race. And it made the first half of the race a very frustrating experience. Everybody's fighting for their lives and they're doing what they can. Nobody's giving an inch, and I'm battling hard to be in the series for next year, and I'm in the position where I can't touch anybody at all and I can't make any mistakes. So made the first half of the race very, very, very frustrating. But once we got track position, we were able to do very good. From there, we held our own. Feels like a missed opportunity a little bit, but it really doesn't. I have no reason to complain.
Atlanta and Dover, the next races coming up, each of them kind of special in their own way. Atlanta, of course, probably the most straightforward, being a cookie-cutter style racetrack, but one of the probably most unique ones of the cookie-cutters that there is. And, of course, Dover is basically supersized Bristol. What do you expect to see for the final 2 playoff rounds that we have coming up?
Well, I've seen Atlanta races go caution-free, and I've seen Atlanta races be a lot like what we witnessed tonight. So, I mean, it could really go either way. I'm very excited for everyone on Team Conti. By the way we're running, I think Michael's got a very serious chance at the Final 4 here at Homestead, and Atlanta's a track we run very well on. So definitely looking forward to it. I was seeing a lot of things tonight with craziness. 29 car was out there on 10-lap older tires, and we went into turn 4, and I had a chance to take the lead, and I literally had to drive straight up the racetrack because the 46 was going to run straight through me. If I didn't, the speed difference is way too much. So I hope people aren't staying out on 10-lap older tires there like they were tonight. But Atlanta could go either way, and so could Dover. I predict craziness from what I saw tonight. But then again, a lot of people are going to get suspended after this race, so maybe it'll go green.
Well, RIP them is all I have to say. But thanks for joining us, Brian. Congratulations on the top 5. Who gets it done for you in the double 5?
Well, thank you. I want to thank everyone at Richmond Raceway and Heyman Hustle and Looking for Larry. I feel like we found him the last 3 weeks. We finished in the top 6 in all of those races. Kicker Audio, Sim Seats, and really I want to thank Michael Conti and Brandon Hastings. We've had a very up and down year. Our teammates, the Radicals, Matt Busa and Nick Ottinger, those 3 drivers right there did an incredible job to make the playoffs with the cars we had at the start of the year. And now that we have great cars, I'm just thinking, well, shoot, that could have been in there too with the way we've been running lately. But those guys are better drivers, and they did a great job managing their equipment earlier in the year to get where they're at right now. And I'm very excited. I think we can at least get another car in the Final Four as well with the way we're running. And I think Michael can go get him at Homestead. So thank you, Michael Conti, Brandon Hastings. My crew chief, as always, Pat Melee, did a great job. Nick Ottinger, Matt Busa. And just thanks to everyone at Team Conti, the Radicals, Richmond Raceway. The start of the year was really bad, but now everything's great. And, you know, I'm happy, and, you know, I'm grateful to be in the position I'm at. Things are looking really good for us right now.
Thanks for joining us, Brian. Congratulations to you once again, and good luck to you in the next coming rounds, and good luck to the whole organization in the next few races as well.
Thank you, guys. Thank the fans. Thanks to everyone for picking me in fantasy. Good night.
That is your top 5 finishers. Again, we always appreciate the time from Logan Klemp, Zach Novak, Ryan Loser, Brad Davies, and Brian Schoenberg for letting us pick their brain a little bit extra. And, you know, obviously a good opportunity to talk with our top finishers, but I think that as we head out of this one, Randy, the main point of discussion needs to be the drivers who didn't finish top 5 and get a chat with us. It was a rough night, and it was an especially rough night for our playoff drivers, the likes of Alfala and Ottinger, and even on that final lap, Bobby Zelensky was a couple hundred feet from finishing 11th, if not 10th in this race, if he makes and completes that pass on Chris Overland, who had the position. Instead, he falls way down to 24th, loses at least 14 points. We don't have any additional driver lock in with Clampett playing spoiler, so we are guaranteed at least 1 points transfer position and a very different looking grid as we head to Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, and, you know, it's going to be crazy. The only, I think, playoff driver, well, there's technically 2. The only 2 playoff drivers who can't be overly worried about their situation in terms of going to Homestead are going to be Ryan Michaeluza and Michael Conti. And Conti's only fortunate in the sense that he won at Darlington a couple weeks ago, and Luza coming home 3rd with, like we said earlier, he's the only one in the top 10, and him and Busa, the only 2 that are, well, actually, no, I take that back. Keegan and Ray, 19th and 20th, but, you know, only barely scraping into the top 20 there. But, you know, Nicholas Shelton in 23rd, Bobby Zelensky 24th, Ottinger in 27th. Bad night of racing for the bulk of your playoff contenders. And if you're one of those names that finished, I think, 19th or worse, you have better be expecting to win one of these races, either Atlanta or Dover, to consider yourself safe and in. Because I think with the 2 nights of racing that Ryan Michaeluza has had, he's pretty much locked in.
And there's a look at the updated points as we head out of Indianapolis. Again, to keep in mind, Michael Conti's win automatically advances him, but it is then Luza, Busa, and Alfala. 2, 3, and 4 are in. The difference between that final transfer spot, Keegan Leahy 5th on the outside, only 2 points behind Ray Alfala, and then a big jump. Nick Ottinger, 13-point deficit, nearly 20 points for Bobby Zelensky. Nicholas Shelton, over 20 points off. If you're those back 3 names, if it does not turn around at Atlanta, I don't really think you can go into that race and wait halfway, 3/4 of the way through to kind of see where you are. You're going to have to certainly take a serious look at that win, and you're in. A very rough night for a handful of drivers here tonight at Indy. Of course, we'll have a week off, Tim, but when we do return, it is the 1.5-mile Atlanta Motor Speedway Fast Speeds upcoming on September the 25th. It'll be the 3rd race of 4 on the opening round of the playoffs.
I'd have to believe if you're one of those 2 or 3 at the back that have their hand hovering over that panic button, you don't want to wait until that round 17 that you see on your screen right now at Dover, because everything can happen really, really quickly at Dover. It can in Atlanta too, but that track closes up really, really quickly. So I think if your hand is hovering around the panic button, I think you really have to get it done at the Atlanta Motor Speedway, because it's unpredictable at Dover for what we can see or what we have seen in this series in the past. So great run by Logan Clampett tonight. The playoff picture gets a little bit clearer, but as we saw tonight, some of the drivers that were running up front that we thought would be in that Final Four didn't have the best of runs. So expect the unexpected, definitely heading into these final couple of rounds and heading in to what could be a very unpredictable Homestead Miami Speedway this year.
And you see those 3 dates, do not miss them. $10,000 on the line as we close in on the end of this 2018 season. But with that being said, race number 2 of the playoffs has fallen into our rear view mirror. Big thanks to Eastman Aballo for the camera angles, Simon Grossman to Kevin Papey, their team who works at a broadcast CG. Graphics are by Andy Werner. For Will Vincent, Hugo Luis, Drew Adams, and Cisco Scaramouza, the entire team at RaceSpotTV and at iRacing, and for your broadcast team tonight. For myself, Evan Pasoko, for Tim Terry, and Randy Jenneth, we want to thank you for tuning in and to congratulate tonight's race winner, Logan Clampett. First time for him on 2018. It's a non-playout driver who plays spoiler tonight. We will return 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, September the 25th from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. That race and every race on the road to the championship in the NASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series can be found right here on RaceSpotTV and the iRacing Esports Network. Until next time, good night from the Brickyard, and we'll see you in Hotlanta.